izküm ku iduse orodoyu iveliko. Uronora.
Inomotu otunum isarapea. Au kunana awizi Ueda kunam.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Fumito Ueda podcast. I am your regular host, Albert, and today I am joined by my co-host, Logan, and returning guest, Nick Sutner, author of Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, An Extraordinary Journey. How are you doing, Mr. Sutner?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me back. It's exciting to hang out with you guys again, and it's been a couple weeks for me since I did anything Shadow-related, so this is nice to dive back in.
It's cool, hey, and like to have the usual sort of weekly thing that you're at any point totally free to join us with whatever. And like Logan, would you say that we're kind of digging into a pretty long odyssey with like what we're planning with episode by episode, colossus by colossus, area by area? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been going pretty well so far. I think we managed to get some good discussion out of Alice and Quadratus.
That's right.
Great.
Yeah, that's right. So it's been pretty good. But I'll crack on with the rest of the intro, and then we'll do it like a round of catch-ups of how everyone's been doing. So let's do this. So for our new listeners, the artist Fumito Ueda, who created Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian, is currently leading his new studio, Gen Design, in developing a new title, The Girl and the Sleeping Giant, as we've come to call it. Each week, we chronicle the creation of this forthcoming adventure in the form of weekly news, informed and wild speculation, analyses, and more. Interwoven with reporting on and breaking down any and all new developments, we are also revisiting Ueda's first 3 titles, starting with Shadow of the Colossus, followed by Ico, and concluding with The Last Guardian. In doing so, we endeavor to compile a fully comprehensive archive of material, long-form, in-depth analyses and discussions on each character, creature, and location, personal stories from fellow appreciators of Ueda's work, interviews, theories, interpretations, and much, much more. The time has come for Mr. Ueda's unmatched and inimitable form of ongoing storytelling, world-building, and overall contribution to the artistic validity and power of this medium, the most profoundly moving and life-affirming art form ever, to receive a thorough, intimate, and loving chronicle, now and for posterity, from the very community that has so embraced, cherished, celebrated, and resonated with the man, his team, and their work for close to 2 decades. We wish to thank you for the privilege of your time in listening in and joining us on this adventure. With that regular rundown out of the way, let's get the show started. Amazing. So, Mr. Sutner. Mr. Sutner.
Mr. Sutner.
I've become so fond of that phrasing. I actually will probably end up writing like a British comedy pilot called Mr. Sutner. Like it's
I'm into it.
It's fully and like it's going to be a mixture between like Black Books and 40 Towers, and it's just simply off of the intonation of your name, man. But needless to say, dear, let's do a nice big catch up. And how have you been in the past couple weeks of either Fumito Ueda related or just like life in general, man?
Yeah, I've been well. I mean, I think the last thing, which I think was after we podcasted last time, was I did the slow jam of the Colossus, which was playing through the game over 10.5 hours with some local friends and developers and streaming it online, which was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And that was sort of my, that was actually finished, like the first time I'd finished the game in the remake. So that was a good time, and I haven't sort of gone back to it myself again recently. I've been playing some other stuff, but things have been good. We just had GDC in the city here last week at the Game Developer Conference, so that was a lot of fun conversations and meeting. From
You were there?
Sort of yeah, I was there. It's
cool.
here in San Francisco, and sort of a big thing every year, and it's nice for me having it like in my backyard, so I can go and
so cool,
be really busy all day, and then go sleep in my bed at night, which is quite a nice benefit.
Yay.
So. Yeah, so that was great. And I was in Hawaii for a week for a friend's wedding. That was a nice break as well. And I visited. We walked across like a volcano crater that was
Whoa.
active
Wow.
in like 1959, and that being down there on the sort of like crazy cracked lava earth was very reminiscent of the lair of Colossus number 9, I believe it is.
I knew it.
Yeah, which was really cool being there in an amazing place and one of the cooler places I've been in the world. So yeah, it's been a good month or whatever it's been. But yeah, it's
That's
a
so
pleasure to
good,
be back
dude.
with you guys.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to have you as always. For sure. Yeah, how have you been, Logan?
I'm good. I've been playing games, seeing movies.
And
Finally
taking
finished Resident
names.
Evil Revelations 2. Well, yeah, sort of. I what have I been playing other than that? I've been playing 25th Ward, The Silver Case, which is the Suda 51 visual novel. It
Oh
was
yeah,
yeah, released on cell phones in 2005 in Japan. And
Whoa.
yeah, being a game that was released on cell phones, there was really no way to play it for the past several years, and it was never released in the US. But I think NIS America has been doing a really good job. They brought the first Silver Case for PS1 over, and now they bought the sequel over, which are just these weird visual novels written by Suda and a couple other guys. They're really fun, very Japanese sort of police story weirdness. So that's mostly what I've been enjoying the past week. I did get to see Pacific Rim Uprising, and I'm very interested to hear what you guys are going to have to say about that
Hmm.
on your Pacific Rim Pop podcast that you do with a couple other guys.
That's right, yeah, Shadow Dome, which we started a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, there's a little bit of connected, obviously, DNA through Guillermo del Toro, who has on many occasions professed his love for Fumito Ueda and his works, and he's tapped Shadow of the Colossus as a touchstone for how he wanted the Colossus to look, and so there's a little strand of connected subject matter DNA there. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. Nick, did you see Pacific Rim Uprising or the original?
no, yeah, I did see the original, which I definitely enjoyed. Mostly for its like bombastic everything really, and I've always sort of
Yeah.
been enamored with like giant monsters, and that was a good time for sure. Even if I didn't connect too much to the stakes or the world or anything. This one
Yeah.
I haven't seen. I guess it came out right sort of the last day of GDC, and it was just a busy time. I actually went and did a Pacific Rim themed escape room here on the last day of GDC, which was an interesting one. I've done quite a few here,
Nice.
and it's funny. It's also funny hearing that you do a podcast on it because one of the women who was sort of matched up with our group, sort of paired up with a few strangers to do the escape room. She was a massive like it's her favorite movie. She's just a huge fan of it, and I'd never really seen anyone quite that enamored with it. So I'm
Oh,
sure
lovely.
she would, she needs to know about the podcast. So I'll have to find a way
Yeah,
to get her attention on it. Um,
definitely let her know, and
and
we'd love to have her on the show at one point.
I'm sure she'd love to come and talk about it. She sort of knew all the lore and everything, and even though it's an escape room that you could go into and know nothing about it and still enjoy yourself, I think it benefited from having someone who really knew their stuff. And yeah, I haven't seen the sequel yet. I mean, I probably will. I see a lot of films, and I like seeing things in the theater, and that seems like one, of course, to see on the big screen if you can. I know it hasn't gotten the kindest reviews, but I don't know. I'm sure it will be sort of fun at the
Yeah.
least, so I probably will.
I can tell you right now, with no spoilers, it's just a lovely fun time. You remember waking up when we were all younger, and like it was the Saturday morning cartoon feeling. It has
Sure.
this innocence to it, and a lot of people say, well, it's very different in tone to Guillermo del Toro, which had this like someone called it. It's like the Hokusai masterpiece versus the comic strip, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, that's fine. I love both Hokusai, the painting, and all that sort of grand operatic, like Francisco de Goya, Colossus, beautiful, painterly, slow moving, amazing. But as is obviously Shadow of the Colossus, which is how, particularly, by the way, just playing through Gaius, like, yeah, I just had this moment of like, oh yeah, I see why this is one of at least a one-time Nick's favorite, like the old flame. Unless you guys are you guys still together, you and Gaius, Nick?
Yeah, yeah. As far as I know, yeah, yeah,
Drifted
best, yeah,
apart for a while, but
yeah.
you know,
No, yeah, I think so. I think just, I mean, we'll get into it, of course, but just everything
okay,
about it, from the sort of the approach to the setting to the fight, is yes, still really stands out strongly for me. I was
and
curious
if
too, Logan, for the Silver Case files, are you like a visual novel guy often, or was that sort of a more unique thing for you?
Yeah, no, I'm really not that big of a visual novel guy. The experience I have with visual novels are the Zero Escape series, which I played.
Sure.
And then if Phoenix Wright is considered a visual novel, which I'm not entirely sure what people think of that, I played like half of the first one.
Right. Fair enough.
Not that I didn't like it, I just didn't finish it.
Right.
So no, I'm really not a visual novel guy, and it's especially interesting. Um, I've been watching some YouTube videos where people play the original game just to kind of catch up, and you see kind of commenters going like, "God, this game is so boring. Nothing happens in it." And I feel like people don't really realize that, especially the first Silver Case was like made in 1999 before any of the popular visual novels today, were made. No one in America knew what
Right.
a visual novel was back then. No one cared, and visual novels didn't have these like kind of fun gameplay conceits like where Phoenix Wright has court cases, or Zero Escape has puzzle rooms, or Danganronpa has whatever Danganronpa has, because I'm not into that series. Um,
Courtrooms,
so
maybe? I don't know.
yeah, I think maybe also some kind of trial. Um, so that was just kind of an interesting thing to think about. It's really very much a relic of its time, and it's a really interesting game because of that. But no, I'm not
And
really into visual novels
are,
most of
like,
the time.
what are you a Suda fan? Like, what got you playing it then? Just because that's like a very
I
specific. Okay,
am, yes. That
gotcha.
was it. Was me being a Suda fan. I've completed a lot of his games. Some of the more recent stuff that he hasn't been as involved with, like Lollipop Chainsaw and Killer is Dead, I have not played, but I mean to play them eventually. But when it's Suda, directing a game, being
Yeah.
heavily involved creatively, I'm definitely in there for that.
Are you a Shadows of the
Amazing.
Damned fan?
It was good. You can really tell that, especially when you know about the conception of that game and what it originally was, you can tell that it's kind of different from what he intended.
Hmm.
But it is a fun experience. Steve Bloom's voice acting is great throughout. It's a fun game to play at least once.
Cool. Yeah, it's a favorite of mine, but don't know anything about the conception of it, so I
Mm.
didn't have any sort of context or going into it.
It was very
Hmm.
different originally.
Okay.
I am super fascinated by this area of like it's heretofore untapped for me. It's really interesting. And as I'm listening back to this while editing, I'm just going to be like writing down notes of like need to kind of find some kind of avenue into this. So thanks for to both of you for yeah, that's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Suda 51 is alternatively considered either the Tarantino or the David Lynch of video games, both of which are fairly accurate.
Hmm.
So he's
Awesome.
a really interesting dev.
There you go. Amazing. Cool. Oh, geez. Wow. This is again one of the great benefits of the sort of wide spectrum, which interactive artistry we sort of accommodate that is like all the tangent taking. Like we have got how like Gaius has like super long arms. It's just like that wide. Like let's make all the tangent connections. Hey Nick, was that a smooth segue or what? Come on. Can I
It
have a
was
2 out of 10 at least for that one?
that was very very Albert.
Thank
Peak
you.
Albert.
Very Albert, which is like an ambiguous, potentially backhanded way of saying like you stumbled through it, but you got there. You got there. But needless to say, I need to read off this. Like we're actually going to jump into questions later, but the one I just want to read it off to you straight away, Nick. We're going to do this, but it's like, is the resemblance? This is a question for Nick. Is the resemblance of Gaius's head to a koala intentional? And I just had to like feel that to you
This is a
because
question that you came up with?
no, this is from Cold Chemical on the
Okay.
Reddit. Yeah. So use a
Oh,
cold chemical. I don't know.
interesting. To a koala. Yeah, I guess I
Yeah,
can see that. Is it intentional? Are they asking me since I'm a supposed expert?
a
Because
supposed
I
expert. Yeah,
supposed expert.
and I,
No,
and I am
I
I
would guess that's
implore you
not
to make
intentional.
something up. I implore you. Like I'm gonna edit around this if I have to. If you need to just create some giant story to
So
completely
you want me to say
like
that Ueda had like a childhood trip
yes.
to Australia and had like a sketchbook that he found like years later when he was making the game, and he was like, I need to get that koala in there.
Yes. Like how the koala like rescued him and like showed him to water, like he was like dehydrated in the Australian desert, and I just
I
want to
see.
black mirror this guy and just be like, yeah, this is all true, just for you, listener.
Right, right.
You
I
know,
see. I see this pro-Australian agenda happening here too. I see.
Ew. Oh, no, it's all good. It's all good. Nick, come to Australia, bro. Anytime. It's all good. And you too, Logan. You need to guys. If there's ever, we
I'll
don't
see.
really have too many like gaming events here, but if at any point you guys want to head over, just like for
I
like
mean,
just
there's a
like.
pretty good stretch where it's PAX Australia that happens
Hmm?
back to back with the. I'm forgetting the name of it right now. There's another one though that happens like right before it, so I know a lot of folks fly in
Yeah.
and stay for that week and a half.
There you go. So that's a potential doohickey for a potential in-person interactive archery
Although
stuff.
you might have to come meet us in Melbourne.
Yeah, no, that's I love Melbourne. It's all good, and we're actually in the process of. I've begun the sort of paperwork thing of trying to get into Gamescom actually. So if you have any riffs about yeah, like August, like there's got a whole online application thing. So I might quiz you a little bit about because you've probably had to do that with like press and stuff of like getting passes and stuff for that, right, Nick?
Yeah, Gamescom is actually one of the few shows though that I've never been to. So that
Oh, cool.
one particularly I don't know much about. I know it's like the biggest show, biggest game
Mm.
show on the planet. I think by a wide
Yeah,
margin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So would you go to like cover it as press?
Yeah, that's basically, and I have two people, one's in Croatia, one's in Italy, Daniele and Dean, who have joined me for like they've been on 21 episodes of Death Stranding podcast, and they're like we can totally travel, we can do it. So I'm just figuring out whether or not we count as like an entity so
Sure.
far. They're like you need to have a certain
Uh,
amount of like output and stuff, but
right. I mean, I would like to imagine that you do. So hopefully that's a straightforward thing. But yeah, I know it is a pretty massive show. That's cool that you guys are all going to go to it for sure.
I dig.
But yeah, I mean, I would also think about coming to like PAX Prime or E3 or something one year.
I dig it. And if you're unable to come, I'll just print off a bunch of those freelance bohemian cards, and I'll just hand them
Just
out
start
on
handing
your
them out.
behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
man,
Thanks.
I got you covered.
Excellent.
Too easy. Well, for our returning listeners, or just in general, we kind of at this point like to sort of just remind you guys that we don't just immediately go off the cuff. We do have like a rough sort of skeletal structure to the show. So after our kind of catch up, we'll give a bit of an overview of how we're sort of going to break down talking about this week's subject, which is the third colossus, Gaius. That's me slipping into my God of War stuff because I'm all about like looking at Calliope and all this stuff here. I've just like it's all since we spoke, Nick, I think I've started 2 other podcasts, so it's just it's just crazy.
So
Getting the
what does that
network
put you at total?
we're at 5 shows today, as of today, and per week, and I host one show every week. There's one show
Wow.
every Wow, it's early in Australia. Here we go. Let's just give myself a little slap in the face. Let's make this happen. So yeah, no, one show every day for every weekend for every weekday, and we are starting a Dune podcast soon as well, which I will not
Oh
be
wow.
hosting,
Really?
but yeah, so
Ooh, cool.
gonna get ahead of the curve with Villeneuve working on that, so that should be fun.
Yeah.
I
That's
was
awesome.
wondering, with the newest news, when we were going to get Sky Guys, our No Man's Sky.
Ah.
I haven't even played No Man's Sky. That's just a
Sky
joke.
guys. Thank
I
you,
like it.
Logan. You gave me a small heart attack just then, but yeah, actually this morning I was working on the perfectly phrased tweets to Steve West, who played Galahad in the Order 1886, because I want to interview that insanely talented dude. His intro to the very first 2013 trailer is just it like still sends chills down my spine, like that whole thing about like the age of industry, and like so a vastly underappreciated title that I've said like, okay, so how many people worked on this? Okay, 300. I'm gonna have 300 episodes of this podcast, and I'm starting it in November, and yeah, so
Doing an
by that
order
time,
podcast.
yeah, the Order 1886,
Wow.
and like the saga going forward, and it's just like I'm gonna just be that one dude to keep that flag flying
Do you think that there's a future for that series?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you've the excellent Robin Gaming put together. It was a bit of a dourly titled video. It was something like the downfall of the Order 1886, where he sort of ties in the narrative of the game itself being about the downfall of an order, and that like the sad tragedy of what happened in the real world, where it was to me inexplicable. I don't want to be naive and say that, oh well, I saw the factors that contributed to it being misinterpreted and not being like catching on, and having that same opportunity that Uncharted and Assassin's Creed did, which was like, oh, the first title like got some things right, but like the next title, boom, straight away, Assassin's Creed 2,
Mm,
like amazing classic, and launched the franchise, and same with Uncharted, like Among Thieves, like boom, So Robin
yep.
and I are wondering like, why hasn't that happened for the order yet? Like they developed so much tech for that. So yeah, it's going to be that, and then again, literally, I've already like accepted if they don't do 1887. I've already been like, this is worthwhile unto itself, because these guys did something completely unsung and so
Mm.
egregiously underappreciated. So
Well, when it is free on PS Plus, I will let you know what I think of it.
I'll
That
send you
might
a damn code. I'll send
that
you a
might
damn
sound
code.
kind of mean, but
No, man, it's all good. It's all good. But
Well,
there's your little. Yeah, go
for what
ahead,
it's
Nick.
worth, I'll throw my head into, and I mean I have it free from when I worked at Sony, but I will say once it's free and Logan will join, then I'll play the game finally, and I'll join you guys on that podcast as well.
Sweet.
cool.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nick. That's awesome to know. Awesome. Well, now let us. Oh, yeah. So I was in the middle of the thing. Okay. So yeah, after the overview, we'll go a bit of news. It's not going to be much because apart from like, and I wanted Logan to kind of have the ability to, because you're on the last episode that when I patched you in, when I sort of cut in your sort of section because you recorded
Mhm.
separately, you weren't able to get your full kind of spiel out. So I'd love to hear what your extended thoughts on like a gen design getting the award and everything, which is really cool, for Last Guardian. And then we'll jump straight into the Reddit questions, which for Nick we have a few because I have phrased it as it's like if you have any questions and comments for Nick, submit them below, etc. So we'll go through that. Then we'll jump straight into like all kinds of amazing nomenclature, trivia, stuff with Gaius, and just have our round table on each of our thoughts on that particular colossus. So awesome. And then like after that, supporter shout outs and then sign off. So awesome. So yeah. Now let me just cut it quickly to Logan. When you when you sort of submitted that thing like last episode, and you were talking about you were sort of like the way that you phrased it about, could you know how we had that person say they sent in that message about like the different ways to kind of talk about each colossus? Like, do you have that with you by any
Mhm.
chance, Logan?
Yes, I do. Yeah, that was the user. I'm gonna get his name in a second because I have the post saved.
Mm-hmm.
TG Mana Samana. That
Thank
was
you
his
so much,
name.
TG. Hmm.
And yeah, I messaged him today. He has not responded yet. But
That's
basically,
fine.
Nick, what it was is that the day we recorded the Valis episode, we found this post by this guy on Reddit, who was specifically asking people which one of the colossi impacted you. And in his post, he actually had these like kind of these survey questions that he put forth, and we were like, oh, this is a really cool way to structure discussion about the
Yeah.
colossi.
Mhm.
So we're just gonna kind of co-opt this guy's thread, use his questions in order to structure our discussion. But he doesn't know about that yet. So I messaged him today,
Yeah.
just assuming
I
that he'll
think
be okay with it.
I
I'm
think
sure
it'll
he'll
be
be
fine.
flattered.
Yeah, it'll be fine. So no, that's going to be really good. And thanks for grabbing that, Logan. I just how with Reddit, if you have everything's logged, but it's like it can be an exercise of endless scrolling. Oh, also
Yeah.
nefarious thing I found out for both of you, just an extra sign that we're heading towards like hardcore can't go back Orwellian times. So the reason why you find things difficult to discover on your timeline is they're purposefully jumbled up because to prompt that kind of manic searching so that you see more ads and so you're increasingly distracted. Like they actually they fuck you over essentially is what I'm saying. um Jesus. But now if we were to look at the contents of the show so far, we're looking at about an 80% Order 1886, a good little dash of Orwellian. So let's dive in. And by the way, Logan, that big interview with Fumito, let's put that into the next one because I want to just dive full in
Yeah,
into
I have been
Gaius. Yeah.
thinking about that too. Yeah, what it's
Yeah.
schmupulations. Yeah.
Yeah, schmupulations. Yeah, Nick, we found this massive interview with Fumito Ueda about just like the dude himself, and like because the Fumito Ueda podcast, we were looking at starting to establish like a regular segment where we read through a chunk of this interview each episode. For the past two, I've actually spoken with this sculptress, which I introduced you to, Naza Goreng, who created
Right,
like
right.
400 hours on that Trico figure, which she now is refusing to. She's almost like tantamount to refusing to sell because she's like she's like developed a connection with it like the boy did in the game. She's
I'm
like,
sure, yeah. After that many hours and
so,
something, yeah, that was incredible. And yeah, I think that I mean, it's been a couple of years for me, but I think that interview was one that I mined quite a bit for my book. Because yeah,
mm,
Schmuckalisms was an awesome site, and I think that was one that I definitely got a lot of info from.
amazing. Yeah, so that's well, there you go, amazing. So I dig that we each sort of found that in our own way, and it's definitely like super comprehensive. So we're definitely looking forward to dig into that. Okie dokie. So, Logan, would you like to take us through the questions that we're going to sort of this amazing user from Reddit that we're just gonna
Yeah,
like Loki
sure.
credit them until they chime in and be like, "Oh, thanks, by the way," or whatever their reaction will be. Yeah, go for it, Logan.
Yeah, so TG Manasamana's questions. The way you discovered one of the colossi. As you might consider these factors.
Mm.
The way you discovered one of the colossi, the way you were impressed by a location, the way the boss battle characterized your experience is kind of nebulous, and any
Mm.
specific characteristic of the colossi. So basically, what was it like first seeing it? What is the appearance like? What is the location?
Yeah.
What did that impress on you? And then what is the actual experience like? And how is that related to the grand scale of the game or whatever, which, is all stuff that Nick goes into, that
Yeah.
you go into in your book.
That's right. And we made the decision earlier, Nick, to just like, well, reading from your book with you on the show, it would just be like, what? Like, we got the guy here. It's like, oh, and Nick Sutton goes on to say, oh, wait, like, I'm literally here, dudes. It's like, what's up? I can
Sure,
answer your questions.
I probably should
Yeah.
have grabbed a copy of it to refresh myself, but we'll see how it goes.
You're fine, dude. And yeah, by the way, it's been really cool. Like, just like every episode, we just tell people, hey, yo, boss fight books. Let's like make that. And it's just been like naturally, we just because obviously we sort of pull a little bit from each of the it just feels like something like an if you Logan and I were starring in like an 80s fantasy movie of like we have this like tome with us on our adventure, and like each week's episode we open it up and read a new page, and it's like it's really nifty. I really dig it.
That's great to hear. I appreciate you guys mentioning it. I think it definitely is like a companion's guide of some sort, or like a travelogue.
Yeah.
So I think the way you guys are going through the game is really a perfect compliment to all of these things.
That's right.
Yeah, I am following along with it every week, so I'm reading
Yeah.
close to when we record.
Awesome.
That's right. I'm playing each Colossus every week as well. Yeah, so awesome, fantastic. So now let us take a sort of roundtable. Logan, if you'd like to just ask that first question and just throw it to Nick, and we'll do the roundtable from there. Go for it.
What was it like discovering the colossi itself?
Yeah, man, it's interesting to sort of think back to that moment of discovery, because now that is like it's not really a moment anymore in a sense. Like that's something you can't have back, which is part of the magic of playing it for the first time. And I think part of what's cool, I'm sure, about people playing the remake for the first time now and having those moments for themselves. But yeah, I think just that setting leading up to Gaius, which is sort of when you're like, I think it's the first time you're really going through sort of those tight cave walls, and then it opens up into the lake. And I think I do remember the feeling of the first time getting to that area and jumping in the lake, especially, that I didn't know if something was going to like come up from the bottom and grab me.
Yeah.
There was no sort of established vocabulary for what the colossi could be or where they'd come from, and so even that foreboding feeling of like being in the lake and sort of you're like learning to swim as Wander and not sure what's there, and you're sort of starting to ascend this thing that looks like a weird like to me it always looks like this like weird crash landed alien ship, this sort of weird upside down thing, and just the tension of like what is on top of this platform. I have no idea. And that jump, I think, where you have to jump from the sort of piece that spirals out of the water up to the platform, is a pretty tricky jump that I think the first time I'm sure took me quite a few tries. And I think I mentioned this in the book too, but I think it's interesting because it serves both, I think, to explain to you that falling into the water doesn't hurt you, and also to train you for some jumps you might have to do in the fight. But I think I don't know, just that feeling of like sort of failure and having to get past that obstacle to even be able to get up to the top, to even be able to see what's there. It was like this very multi-step thing that then of course has a huge impact when you actually get there and you're like, what is this big pile of rocks? And then he stands up and it all goes crazy from there. But just that valley and the feeling of being like in this enclosed or next to this enclosed lake, and then the way that the sort of landscape changes as you move up, and especially as you climb up Gaius, and you realize that you're sort of in this crater and you can see over the whole Forbidden Lands. And I think it's the first time really in the game that you get that sort of perspective.
Really interesting. And then I will reflect that question back right onto you, just like freaking the boy from Last Guardian, like mirror shield. Now you answer the question, Logan. Go. It's your turn.
Yeah. So I think Nick also talks. I don't know why I keep referring to him in the third person. I guess just because I'm talking about actually reading the book.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's that text.
Cool.
Yeah. But you say in the book, how this is really kind of the first time where a lot of players might sort of start feeling a little more free in the Forbidden Lands and kind of getting distracted by lizards or save shrines or what have you. That's definitely true. I think a lot of first time players are going to go straight to Valis. Then they're going to go straight to Quadratus when they realize where he is. But then, Gaius, that's a much longer route to get to him.
Right.
So you're probably just gonna go look for a save shrine, just kind of run around with your horse and run around the aggro.
Yeah, and the symbolism of crossing the gorge is also like, so you've had it's just like you've had your little shallow end experiences now. Okay, so literally a threshold is being crossed into the the extended adventure and like the wider world as represented by Gaius.
And I think even that that sort of moment of crossing the gorge for the second time, because the first time you cross it and then you sort of take a right, to go down to Quadratus, and then the feeling of like sort of you're doubling over your path, but this time you're going further. And I think that feeling happens a few times in the game where you head towards somewhere you've already been, but now you take it a step further and you're taking it a little deeper and going into more unfamiliar territory.
Has that feeling of something like again, the implication is that it's wonder infecting this place because it's forbidden, it's sacred, and he enters as this literal, like this dark presence which eventually we see him become. But it reminds me of like how cancer spreads. It's like it just explores all the veins, all the avenues, and it just like that's kind of how I see Wanda's sort of presence in the lands being something that you can't escape.
Yeah. I mean, actually exploring it though is quite tranquil, obviously.
Yeah.
You don't feel like a cancer.
Of course, exactly, and that's the beautiful interplay. And I mean, coming from the man with the tumbler, the lands of light and dark, like you know what I mean. Like it's this thing of a beautiful, like dappled light, like astonishing, epic, and in some ways very serene setting, but with a narrative that can be considered, depending on your point of view, Team Colossus, Team Wonder. No, fuck that. Depending on your point of view, it can either be. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm a bit of I lean towards the Colossi, but I admire Wanda, and like we've had the focus episode on him and Mono and everything, but like I'll dip into my thoughts on him as we go along. But did I please continue, Logan? If I've I just been trying to build on your points. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess the actual location of the Colossi is another point, but I guess in talking about leading up to Gaius, unlike some other Colossi, like number 6, the location where you fight him, you kind of get to see it a while before you actually kind of part of the experience of going up to him is sort of seeing where he is. It's certainly one of the more amazing and fantastic locations in the game.
What a reveal!
I don't really know what the heck
literally,
it is.
Yeah,
it's really cool. You go, the corridors leading up to it are really like they're very.
Yeah.
And I think in the remake there's like all these really large chains that go from like these rocks in the lake up to the platform. I don't remember if those are in the original. Do you remember, Nick?
I'm trying to picture it now again in the remake. I feel like there was some sort of like threads of something that I couldn't quite tell if that was supposed to be part of the rock or part of the surrounding earth there. But definitely, I don't remember it as being changed. So that's interesting to hear that was something you noticed in the remake.
Yeah, no, they're definitely changed in the remake. There are these rocks jutting out of the lake, and there's some very large chains that go up from the rock onto the platform. But yeah, I mean, that's just it's all very iconic. The location, Gaius himself, which I'll get into later.
I can confirm. Sorry to interrupt, Logan. I can confirm that there aren't any in the 2005.
Oh,
it's just I'm
okay,
looking at it
really?
now. Yeah, so an extra flourish, which like weirdly it just fit for me. It is, as you said, Nick, just like this weird thing that resembles, like almost like a spaceship type thing, and the idea of it, needing to be stable because it is like it's jutting out of this lake thing. I can imagine it's not too far of a stretch for the chains to be there to, I don't know, keep it straight or something. Who knows?
It actually, after I saw District 9, which I think was 2009.
No, you mispronounced it. It's District 9.
Oh, very nice. Well done.
I'm kidding. Oh my god, that's the one thing I can say in that accent. Sorry.
More than I can say.
Prawns.
Yeah, prawns are good. That it reminds me of the ship from District 9. Basically, it's just sort of this big flat thing that has like architecture growing down from it. I mean, obviously it came out before the movie, but that's something where it always connects in my mind now.
That's right. Okay, well, I'm going to speculate, if it's okay with your leave, Logan. I would love to.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, with the location, guys, like, it's really one of those structures where, I mean, and so many of the locations are like this, which is like really funny. Where you hear all these people say, oh, well, you get to these ruined cities and you wonder who built them and why they were built. But at the
Hmm.
same time, like, you can maybe kind of tell that maybe not much thought was actually put into it beyond like gameplay. Like, why was this huge platform built? Well, it was built for you to fight this large man who's
You
on
could
top
say
of it.
that.
Like, let's
Yeah.
let's I'll be real. Yeah, like, I think, with some colossi, specifically 14 and 15, yes, it does seem like a real place where people could have lived or been.
Mm.
Mhm.
But there are some of them really where, and all the love to the devs, like, you don't really get the feeling like they kind of thought it up and like, oh, this was actually an aqueduct, or this was the armory, or I don't know.
Well,
It's,
yeah. You mean digital archaeology? You mean, I
yeah,
suppose.
yeah, is,
Well,
as interesting, and what's important is, as I guess, that you get a sense that it was used for something, and not that you can figure out what it was actually used for, because maybe there was no really mind paid to that aspect of it.
Yeah.
hmm,
I think though with I mean with the first Colossus, you sort of like discover him up in this lair, which is just like built into the geography of the world, and then the second one, he's maybe walled off near the beach. But Gaius really is the first one you encounter, I think, that has sort of this structure assigned to him in a way.
Mhm.
And for me, that is why it always did feel like an alien ship, because it feels like something that just dropped into this lake and appeared from somewhere, and serves the purpose to sort of like put him up on this pedestal and like frame the encounter. But I think that does make it feel fundamentally different from the first two.
Well, I have a few little riffs on this. So you were saying, first of all, I'll just say with Logan, and like I totally get that. That's my first thing that I keep myself definitely anchored to. Just like, yeah, usually with games, as much as there is narrative consideration, like the whole nature of the medium is that it's meant to things are designed with the idea of gameplay in mind, very much, like prominently. So and then like the notion of going into speculation about like potential like narrative conceits for why things should take the shape they do. I actually found I've been mentioning this on the past couple episodes of basically a few different interactive artistry podcasts is that like my thing that like I kind of have come to peace with is that like it's basically as long as it's like enriching to go there and speculate, even if it was not intentional on the part of the part of the creator, it just ends up being something that just that it first of all the question of like the angle that like it prompted you to want to dive in is basically like it's like a success. Like the artist has succeeded in created that
Mhm.
intrigue, which is good to acknowledge, and it's good to sort of fall into that. But then another layer is that like um you know as like the exercise of seeking meaning can even though the intention on the part of the creator was not there, and as long as you don't dip into the whole thing of like, oh, I figured it out, this is what they were intending, I've like no, I'm like laying definitely making no claim of that, and I'm sure neither of us here would say that, oh, this is the definitive thing, because it's impossible. And in fact, that's what makes this so enduring and timeless, that we can speculate this way. So for me, it's just like it's just worthwhile unto itself to do that, even if it wasn't intended. But then the second thing I want to have, so for this particular structure, is I want to take a couple of things. I'm just going to gather a little bit of what each of you have said. So Nick said the thing about the spaceship, and then we were talking about in Logan was talking about just like how it looks almost purpose built. And so for me, because Gaius, I was just reading in the sort of description of it. So Gaius, out of all the colossi, he resembles a human the most. And as much as we know we get regular reminders that we are part of like the food chain, we're part of nature, we do have this sense of elevation of ourselves as like the humanoids who receive the little droplet from whatever entity on it or energy you think created us, like that whole like we fancy ourselves more divine. That's the whole notion of like the humanoids. That's why in like Star Trek and in Star Wars, like we have it we it's like almost psychologically impossible for us to conceive of anything that isn't really humanoid, because that's why we always portray aliens in this way. So I sort of looked at it from this angle, and so the idea of like this ancient civilization building this platform of like, oh, the colossus that most resembles humans, that has this more humanoid than any of the other colossi kind of form, And that's it actually justifies, like, on the platform itself, that's how you break his sword. Is there's that it almost looks like a sacrificial platform. So I have the feeling that Gaius was like elevated, like a lot, literally elevated a lot higher than the other colossi, and he had this sort of, again, that path that goes up. It just feels like this road of sacrifices where, like, sacrificed people to be sacrificed were like led up and placed on that platform for him. So that's just my any thoughts on that, anyone?
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really, for some reason, I always think about the colossi as being fairly peaceful, as their default nature, and not really aggressive. Like you sort of, you're the aggressor, and it turns into an aggressive interaction. But as far as
Mm.
thinking about other people being sacrificed to him, that is interesting to think about. I like the thought of like elevation, above the others too, and sort of the sacred altar. Um,
Mm.
yeah, no, it's an interesting thought exercise for sure. I think when I think about how the Forbidden Lands, when we do think about how they were used, and you look at the architecture, and we, like we're saying, you sort of make presumptions and read into some of it about what it could be used for. I never think about the Colossi coexisting with that. I guess I think about it more as
True.
the Forbidden Lands being this place and this history and has its own people and everything. And then when Dorman was like split up into these creatures, then the sort of Colossi became what they are now, and that was maybe after or the cause of that fall of that civilization. That's why I think I never think about them interacting with anyone else
Yeah,
historically.
I tend to agree with that.
That's valid. That's fair. I like that. Go for it, Logan.
What's the subject? I mean,
Oh, it was just if you
were
wanted
you
to,
done?
no,
Yeah.
no, that's okay.
No, no, no.
It was the whole idea of like, because you and I'm again, I sort of, that's what's really great about sharing all these viewpoints, is that's kind of where my mind just locked into that. Just who knows, just because of that humanoid imagery and the idea of elevating, and having this, like, to a degree, art is obsessed. Like, humans are obsessed with themselves in a way. Like, the human form is the most portrayed form in all of art. And so I figured, like, linking that into why, like, a possible narrative angle of why Gaius would be like,
Mm.
have such. I mean, I think he has the most icon, like, um, I would say one of the most impressive, like, like literal platforms. I don't mean to
Yeah.
doing all these puns of like elevated platforms. I'm not doing Gaius puns. I'm literally just trying to
No,
describe the thing.
yeah, I
But
think
yeah.
you're right though, and I think especially when we think about things from a perspective of art direction and not like function in the world, that if you have this very vertical humanoid figure that is reminiscent of like a Roman statue or something, I think putting it
Mm,
up on a pedestal makes a lot of sense, and it really works both in the in the approach like we're talking about, and especially it's really dramatic when you're climbing up on him in this place. So I think just again from an like art direction standpoint, I'm sure that was a lot of the motivation behind it, and I think that probably did come from some human imagery and historical imagery of people being put up on a pedestal, whether that is a symbolic thing about elevating us and raising us beyond other creatures or not. I
mm.
think it makes for great visual direction.
Dig it. I dig it. Any riffs on that one, Logan?
No, I mean, in terms of worshiping Gaius, that's I guess going to be maybe a subject for later. I think we should probably kind of get into the massive popularity of Gaius compared to the other
Oh
colossi
yeah.
at a later point. Maybe once we're done with all the questions, maybe before we do the trivia, we
I
can
dig it.
kind of set aside a time to talk about that because I do have some things to say about that.
Oh, you must, absolutely. And I appreciate Logan, like, gently, like, lane correction, just like, gently steering us back towards the questions, which I
Oh no,
appreciate.
that's not
No,
what I'm trying to do. I'm just
no, no, I love, and I seriously appreciate it. It's really good. And because, again, we can dip into tangents all we want, but the important of the sort of the movement towards, like, just keeping that linear structure is also important. So and I also just want to say, I know it's like, Logan, we've had the questions before, but I actually dig the idea of, like, you, like, me throwing it to you to ask them. So if we can do that from, like, now on with the Colossus shows, I kind of dig this, like, Logan's
all right.
questions. I dig it. All right, man.
All right, are we moving on then?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, okay, so we kind of covered the first two then. So, we were talking about the location.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking about I guess I think we're gonna get into the appearance of the Colossus third before we get into the actual fight. I think that makes a little more sense.
True.
Yeah, let's just I guess going into his appearance.
All
I
right.
guess he's a little like who's going first? Are we letting Nick go first?
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
the
Go for it, Nick.
guest. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, As far as the appearance, yeah, I mean, I think we've been talking about it already. I think, yeah, you got the koala face, you got the human body. um, no, but yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, he's really imposing, and I think it's, with I guess you could sort of climb back down, but it was a place where I felt really like stuck, especially with him up in that pedestal. I think after Quadratus, you can always like ride away and and come back later. But here it feels like you're really stuck, and it's this very like David and Goliath imagery of this little,
Oh,
this
big time.
tiny figure on this, on this huge imposing obstacle, and he's got a sword, which is a big difference as well, right? It's fighting something that is not only this giant hulking stone thing, but that has a weapon, even if it's just sort of an extension of Gaius. But yeah, I think it's just incredibly striking, and having this backdrop of like the sky with the the sun like burning through the clouds, and just everything about it, I think really the way it's introduced in that sense. I mean, the other ones are a little more almost like cinematic in a way, where with Valis you see like the trees shaking, and then you see a big foot come into frame, and then with Quadratus it's like bursting through the wall. Those are like cool moments, but here it's more about like building this mood and climbing up to this moment of the reveal, and the reveal is amazing. And you have the backdrop of, like I said, the clouds. You have the shrine in the background, and I think just everything about that reveal really makes this stand out in people's heads, sort of regardless of what even happened. Or I know a lot of people had frustration there of trying to run up the sword and figure out the battle, but I think the introduction makes it stand out in people's minds really intensely.
I dig that, man. I dig that. Yeah. So for me, I just wanted to just draw just like park the car a little bit. The analysis tour bus at the fact that like when we see him, he's basically like broken, like he's almost disassembled, which I've always thought of it as like, when you are puppeting, like how Dorman in some ways you could be seen him as like puppeting these things, or that their energy, Dorman's energy has infected them or something, to unlock his power. So I had the idea of him resembling, when you drop a puppet, like, and the strings, everything just like
Oh
becomes
yeah, sure.
loose and just like falls into that mound. And I just had that idea of like, Dorman like pulling up at the strings. And what's interesting is I took a screen capture which I shared to the Facebook, of if you and this is obviously, look, it's probably like beacons that I either are indicating to other colossi or something I'm not getting or just thinking about right now. But there's like those vortexes in the sky when
Yep.
you're fighting him. Yeah,
Sure.
and I just immediately thought of just like puppet strings, and his general resemblance too, especially when he has this posture which actually helps you later when you're on his back, to sort of stay stable and recover your grip strength. Is that he leans forward so you can like release your grip. He actually has this stoop, and he sort of lurches forward the same way that puppets do. When in like puppet shows, because that's how usually the puppeteer's hands are angled. Is like the it's just this sense of how is this thing keeping itself up. And it's very like, yeah, eerie in many ways. Like he's kind of one of the spookiest, I think, looking, because especially when he just like locks you with his eyes, it's just like, oh shit.
Yeah. And he
Definitely.
doesn't really sort of like, he doesn't really fade into the environment like the other ones do.
No.
He stands out, and once he's like awake, then it's just the sort of thing you have to deal with. It's not just an extension of the environment that you're in.
Yeah, you literally can't run. Even though there's that great little kind of courtesy, I would call it, in the environment design, where if you fall off the edge, you have a minor heart attack because you think you're going to fall into the water, but there's that sub platform that you're like,
Right,
ah,
right.
which is kind of cool. But what did you think, Logan?
That's a great observation about him resembling a puppet or even a toy. I mean, I've never heard that before, and that really it
Hmm.
really makes a lot of sense. I mean, his feet are like they're orbs, or like little balls.
Hmm.
So yeah, like him being a toy, that's just a very good point.
Hmm.
And yeah, in terms of his appearance, I mean, I've always kind of considered him one of the more unique Colossus compared to the other ones. I think I would say there are a few Colossi that really kind of have these designs that are kind of separate. Gaius is one, Kuramori is one, Phalanx is one. You could say Malice is another one.
Hmm.
But beyond those four, there tends to be a bit more of like a unified design behind most of them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, Gaius, he's super tall. He's got like so much kind of sticking out of him, and he's got like his
Yeah.
arms like his arms have like, if you look at him like in profile or silhouette, his arms have like all these bumps and kind of weird construction going on. And I feel like a lot of the other Colossi aren't like that. He has the weird abdomen that is like smaller than the rest. It's like he's got an hourglass figure, you could say.
He's a CrossFit guy. He hits that
Yeah.
CrossFit pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah, so his appearance is like super interesting to me. And I tend to think that he looks like a monkey.
A little
Of other
bit.
animals, you could say koala. That was always what I thought.
Mm.
Just from the first time I played the
Well,
game.
just to jump in and support you from the wiki we have, Gaius has the furthest reach of any colossi, excluding the four that use projectile attacks, due to both its height and the length of its sword. So, and he's just insanely long limbs. I think he's got the longest limbs, maybe next to Malus. So yeah, I just wanted to add that little appendice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you feel it too when he swings the sword at you, especially when you sort of line it up right, as the first step to actually like unlocking the next part of the battle is having him do that sort of giant overhand swing and then feeling the distance with the sword. Like that's just another amazing moment, which then leads to you running up the sword, which is maybe the most sort of iconic moment in the whole game. So everything about that just feels dramatic. And again, some of the sort of I got into it a little bit in the book, but there was decisions made to make the colossi, move sort of slow and hulking in a way to give you the feeling of mass. And I think the way that he swings the sword is still the sort of huge wind up, and it's a slow swing, but you just feel the momentum of it and feel the impact and everything. So it's one where they just really sort of did it right in terms of communicating all these feelings about the encounter.
Absolutely. Quick little programming thing to just jump in. And Nick, how long do we have you for, just to make sure that we allocate time to like ask
Oh,
you
I'm fine
questions?
actually. Yeah, my later
Okay.
plans got canceled, so we're good.
Too easy. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. I'll throw it back to you, Logan.
So I made you wake up early for nothing.
Oh, you're fine, dude. Chill.
Oh.
It's all chill, man. It's all chill. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's before we get into, I guess, talking about the battle. I guess that's. Do I have anything else to say about his appearance?
Mhm.
I just think that his uniqueness has lent a lot to his popularity. But we're gonna
Yeah.
talk more about his appearance, or if we want to get into the
Yeah,
actual
sure.
fight.
It's interesting. So appearance, because obviously that we don't have a noises section. So like Logan, we usually dip into like we just sort of read off trivia down the line. But I figured if it comes up organically, it's better to just like say the thing when it's relevant instead of just like yeah. So we have Gaius makes a lot of different noises, as with most colossi. It bellows and roars a lot. Some of the noises it makes are similar to those made by roaring bears. And I remember in terms of sound design, like the lurch, especially in the remake, like the lurching kind of cracking and it very much feels like it's like a probably at least so far as I've been going through that like the most impressive sounding of the Colossi, definitely. And then I have to I gotta go cover these because for the interest of comprehensiveness for posterity. So Gaius is potentially the furriest of all the 16 Colossi. Sorry.
Do you want to just do all the trivia, or
Yeah, let's do it. Why not? So most of its body that isn't covered by armor has fur on it, and even when the armor on its arm is broken, it can be seen that beneath the armor is more fur. Going by this, it is possible that most of Gaius's body is covered in fur rather than in specific places like the other colossi. There is, however, a bald patch of tough skin on the inside of its right arm, which I found super interesting because it looked like super. This is like super zoomed in, but again, this is I've said this like Logan with the Quadratus. I was like with these episodes, it's the idea that when this is discovered many years from now of like, oh, the comprehensive volumes, the leather bound, who knows if we get a leather bound thing happening. Like this is the, like be all end all discussion on this on Gaius, and it's like why not just dive into everything? So, do you want to read any of the trivia, buddy?
yeah. I mean, well, for Nick, I guess just to explain what we're doing is we're actually going on the Team Eco wiki.
Hmm.
They have a whole trivia bullet point list of trivia on
Cool.
there
Yeah,
that is
that's great.
often
Super
fairly
fascinating.
interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Well,
I
what?
guess to start,
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say before we, I guess, get into actually talking about the fight itself, which I think we're probably going to spend a while talking, since we've already covered some of these points, we're going to just
Yeah,
rattle off the rest.
of course. Too easy. All right. Well, I can take that. We'll go from the start. It says obviously,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll breeze over it. I won't read the full thing in full if we've covered it already.
Mhm.
So it says Gaius is only one of the three colossus that wield a weapon. The others two being Valus and Argus. Gaius is also the only one of the three that will never drop its weapon. Valus drops its weapon
Right.
during its death sequence, and Argus is disarmed by Wanda during their battle. This is likely due to the fact that Gaius's weapon, well, it is actually physically part of his body and drops it
Yeah.
onto his right hand. Yeah. Yeah. So awesome. So you can take the next one if you want, Logan.
Well, we know he has the furthest reach. We know he resembles a human. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go right on to saying the stats. He's 97 feet or 29.6 meters tall. And according to the wiki, he's the third tallest colossi after Malus and Quadratus. Though I know you and Naz kind of had this conversation last episode.
It was
like,
bullshit. We had a big
yeah,
Australian like, fuck
is
off.
Quadratus is Quadratus really that tall? Which I guess if you do look at the size comparisons, Gaius does seem a bit taller than Quadratus. Quadratus is definitely as we both mentioned, or at least I definitely mentioned it in my little section. Quadratus definitely tends to seem a lot smaller than they actually are. But yeah, Gaius is looks to be a little bit tall.
For sure. For sure. I'll take the next one. So Gaius is one of the more popular colossi among fans, due in part to its great height and the fact that the fight essentially is a death match between two swordsmen. This is what, building on what Nick said about the David and Goliath kind of vibe. Held within the confines of a lofty arena wherein Gaius resides. Gaius's popularity may also be due to the fact that many players view the fight against Gaius as the first proper fight in the game. Valus and Quadratus are seen somewhat as training colossi, in that they are more designed to allow the player to become accustomed to the controls as well as the game's mechanics and physics. Gaius, by comparison, is a tougher opponent, especially given that the puzzle of breaking its armor is trickier to discover than either Valus or Quadratus weaknesses, which is totally valid. So, awesome. Go for it, Logan.
Okay, yep, you said he makes some noises. He's the furriest.
Yep.
He's the only bipedal colossi. It doesn't have hands. Its right hand is connected directly to its sword, and its left is like a stump with some stone armor protruding from it, which appears vaguely resembling very crude fingers. Yeah, I guess I never really paid attention too much to his left hand, but yeah, it's real. I really never did. Now that I think about it, it really isn't all that hand-like.
Yeah,
I guess I
there's-
kind of assumed. Yeah,
I'm realizing there's a fine line between like trivia meaning like things that most people never bother to notice. But it's interesting when you actually get into it, because it is like you're saying, it's things that I like never thought twice about it, and it's like, oh, actually, people are being very comprehensive about it, which is cool.
This is cool, yeah. Awesome. I'll grab the next one. So Gaius and Valus are the only two colossi with major sigils on their arms, but those are exclusive to hard mode. Argus and Malus come close, but they have minor sigils on their arms, not major. Well, that's just very like dry. Like that's like an academic. That's that. Nick, do you remember in school when you just read like a useless medical fact that you're like, I wasted 3.5 seconds of my life on this, and I just felt that way.
I call that chemistry. All of chemistry.
No offense. Yeah, no, go ahead, Nick.
No. Oh no, I was just saying. Yeah, I call that all of chemistry. Chemistry was an entirely useless thing for me. But no, I know what you mean.
I'll start putting that headline together, and I'll post it vengefully to like Chemistry Weekly or whatever, and I'll just be like, by the way, Nick Sutner, he doesn't like you.
Not a fan.
I don't like you either. sorry. Listen.
Dr. Avazan.
Evazan, thank you. Wow. Oh, Nick, would you have gotten that one in terms of the deep Star Wars lore?
No, not that deep cut. That's too deep for me.
I'm a wanted man in 12 systems. Okay. Along with Quadratus and Wanda. Oh, I'm stealing. Look at me. I'm a freaking trivia thief. Go for it, Logan.
Yeah, you can actually get a little picture of this if you go on Guy's wiki page. That he was another one of these Sackboy costumes in Little Big Planet, which is very cute. I love that they did Team Eco content for that game. I didn't buy it, even though I had Little Big Planet, but it was really cool that they did do it. They had a lot of nice stickers that you can post. That was like all this weird Shadow of the Colossus art.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh gosh, it's a never-ending story. Let's just put it that way. Oh, quick little shout out, because we talked about it. It's just like me quickly adding a retroactive appendices. So for me, the approach to the I forgot to talk about this, but like because of that sort of swampy kind of vibe, I just felt total Atreus. Atreyu. Thanks, God of War. Atreyu and Artax vibes, like approaching Morla, the giant kind of tortoise in Neverending Story.
Sure, yeah.
got those vibes big time with like the swampy kind of surrounds, and yeah, so I figured I'd throw that back there. And so the last trivia is, in the PS4 remaster, a trophy can be earned from defeating Gaius without shattering his wrist guard. Then I am going to add one. So
Wow.
if anyone is looking after the wiki, you got to add this one. So Gaius Marius is he was a Roman general and statesman, and he was called the third founder of Rome. So third Colossus, third founder of Rome. There's your little connection to the number 3 there with the
Bam.
nomenclature.
Oh, cool. I never knew that one.
Too easy. There you go. Booyah. The more you know.
And I guess another one that I'll add from my book, which comes from some of the research I did interviewing people who were involved, which I was told by Kyle Schubel, who was one of the U.S. producers on the game, is that this fight is actually where the name of the game comes from, the Western name of the game.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Just the way that the shadow of the sword basically swooped over the player, and just the impact that had, and felt like a giant plane or a 2x4 or something like coming over you, and that inspired that moment of like, yeah, just Shadow the Colossus, because I know that sounded like the U.S. marketing team was struggling a bit, and because the original title is quite different of Wanda and Kyozu, and what to do with that, but I think it actually worked out really well, and came from this fight.
Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. Coolies. All right, Logan, you can lead us into the next question.
All right, yeah. Well, the next question is, about the battle itself, which, it was a saying in third person.
No, it's okay. You can. It
doesn't sound weird to me. You're good.
You give a beautiful rundown of it in the book, so I guess I should just throw it to you so you can parrot some of that, and maybe add some new.
Oh no, it's been a while since I've looked at it, so I don't even know what my my rundown was, but yeah, I mean, I guess the fight, it's interesting having this multi-step thing, and like the wiki sort of talked about, it's the first sort of true challenge where it's a bit of a puzzle, and you have to figure out how to like break the wristband so you can get up far enough, and then you have to run up the sword, and a lot of that is like a sort of a distance thing, which doesn't quite come up quite as often in the game, I think, but you have to sort of figure out how far away from him to be to get him to swing his sword in the right way, but you have to swing the sword and yet close enough to be able to have enough time to run up the sword, and that's after you shattered the wristband. So there's a lot of sort of puzzly steps leading up to it, and then once you actually get up the sword and get up there, then the rest of it I think is fairly straightforward. But yeah, not too much else to say off the top of my head.
That's okay. We'll do a couple of different roundtables. So, what did you think, Logan, of the fight?
I certainly, you're certainly right, Nick, in your book when you say that both the moment of running up his sword and then the moment of being on top of Gaius' head are some of the best in the entire game. Being on Gaius' head, especially in the remake, the Shrine of Worship, and sort of you get really a scale of how big the Forbidden Lands are, is really just really amazing. And that certainly based on that, I can see why Gaius is so popular. For me, I believe the first time I fought Gaius, I must have broken his armor on accident.
Really?
Because
okay.
I really don't remember it being a difficult fight. But then I think the first time I played it on PS3, I think I might have had to get my brother. I might have had to ask my brother, like, what the frick do you think I should do in this fight? And I think he managed to figure it out, luckily. But I know it took me like a long time. I couldn't figure it out on PS3. So yeah, Gaius was maybe in my PS3 playthrough one of the more difficult.
He was vexing.
So I think, yeah, they all took me a while, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's just I love jumping from the arm to the stomach. Is that's like kind of a very kind of classic, like fighting a giant thing that maybe you don't get to do on so many of the other colossi, is actually jump from one part of it like across to another part of it.
Yeah,
so
the humanoid shape really lends itself to that.
Yeah, and then you have to jump back.
And I think that's actually the part that you're sort of trained for on the path leading up to it, when you have to hang backwards from those rocks and jump over to the main part of the saucer before you climb up there. So I think it's giving you a bit of training. But it's funny because now I never do that anymore. I climb up and then I like drop down from up on his shoulders, sort of. So that path to me, I never really think about anymore. But that definitely, I think, is the way that you're supposed to encounter it.
Yeah, it seems that way with the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh no, that's it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, yeah, it seems that way with I'm looking at some of the concept sketches, and it's very much you're looking at how many. I wonder if they had the idea of making them even larger. I wonder if that was one thing that they explored, because it seems as though if you look at some of these concept sketches, like there's the whole notion that maybe someone will eventually do like some kind of spiritual sequel where they make these things like literally like maybe the size of that the Titans were in God of War 3, I think, was probably some of the largest like meshes ever created for a game. I don't know, because it looks like there's even like mini rooms and like different, literally like a whole series of platforming that had just an idea that I had. But in terms of the fight, so for me, I'll get my sort of my minutia out of the way. Nick, I've been doing this thing every Colossus, just picking out like the particular wabi sabi kind of aspect and just like singling
Sure.
out that one je ne sais quoi type thing. So for me, I'll catch you up with Chavalis. It was how when he's killed, like it's just that minutia of like his hands, which I get that. So again, going back to Neverending Story, there's that the rock biter who's like, oh, these hands look super strong, and they don't look like they could let go of anything, and so the sad thing is that he lost his friends, and like there's that sort of pathos there, and the idea that like literally you just look at Valis and he has these insanely like beefy strong arms. You just think that nothing could ever like have them like ever like part, like they just grabbing the staff. And so when you see those fingers like unwrap, it's just this super, and like letting the club fall through them, like it just has that pang. So each of the Colossus have had this like emotional pang for me. And then Quadratus is when a horse or a cow is wounded, they'll fall onto their forward ankle, and their wrist will
Right.
bend. Yeah, it'll bend inwards very sickeningly, and it's just like immediate pang of just like empathy. So for me, this was probably the most like visceral for me, because I remember from Alien, when he's just sort of grabbing towards his stomach, and I did something a bit like unwittingly sadistic. I went for his head first, and then that one faded away. Like he was obviously shaking that off, and people have described that as like get away from a head type thing. But like something that just taps into something maybe primal and really like frightening is the idea of something entering through your belly button, which is like in like Neo, the Matrix, and everything, or even coming out of you. And so him, because he's got these big, these big arms that he can't quite like reach his stomach. He's reaching for you, and he's like really distressed, and he's like clawing at you, but he can't really reach you, and you're just this implacable kind of tick just making its way towards his stomach. It's just like, ugh, So, and then when like obviously there's nothing you can do, and you slay him, and just that blood just jutting out from him, it's just like that was for me, like like that's probably like what sort of overtook me, was that aspect. But now it's time to make time for like, I did find it initially pretty frustrating not figuring out what shut the fuck up, Dorman. Like, okay, I get it, you want me to break his armor, and I was like firing arrows at this fucking armor and I was
A lot of
like,
people really hate the Dorman hints, is what I've
I should
found.
probably take them. I'm gonna turn them off.
Yeah, I forget where. I think that was like in Kotaku's review where they were like, definitely need to turn the Dorman hints on. It's like,
It's like, listen, motherfucker, oi, calm your fucking farm. That's my Australian coming out. Calm your farm. Excuse me. But anyway, please continue, Logan. I am very composed right now.
No, that's you were the one who was talking. I interrupted you.
Yeah, sorry. There you go. See, I tried to throw it. There's nowhere I can hide. So no, but yeah, those are the main two for me. Was that initial frustration. And what I did is like, I'm looking through the strategies here, and I will admit I just camped under. I think it was like shelter. Like I was just sort of burrowed myself underneath his sort of arm brace type thing, that very fashionable thing that his grandparents got him one day. That he was like, "You trust me, you look good, guys. Trust me, they're gonna love you at the prom." And they're like, "Mom," just like this really horribly imbalanced, like asymmetrical fashion accessory. So yeah, so I just sort of hung out under there. I was like, okay, literally, what do I do now? And I actually tried for a long time to not like, I was like, shut up, Dorman, I'm not going to break the armor, you're an idiot, stupid demon man. And so I jumped. I kept trying to jump from his arm to his leg and then climb up. I did make it though to his leg, but I don't think, there's no way really to climb up if you haven't broken his brace. Is that correct, Nick?
Well, I know you can sort of get the sword to like fling you up in the air. And there's ways you can, if you're, I don't know how much it's something you can just discover, but if you know what you're trying to do, I mean, I've seen videos of sort of flicking you up in the air and then like catching him on the shoulder, and you can do some acrobatics. I don't really know what the method is that the trophy is tied to, though, specifically.
I
Oh,
am
okay.
never going to try that sword jump. I
Yeah.
don't think I'm gonna do well at it, and I don't plan on ever trying.
Um, I just want to share something with you guys I've been doing with like Shadow Dome, for example, is I like to everything, all these beautifully evocatively named, nomenclature is one of my passions as well. So like I always find this with things that you love so much, you feel secure in yourself enough to make fun of them. So I like have been taking each of them and being like, what's a riff I can do here? So with like there's a Jaeger in Pacific Rim called Mammoth Apostle. I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. But how would I decoolify that as well? Malamute apostrophe. There you go, done. It's not cool anymore. So for
I don't
me,
know what that
I'm
means.
gonna I'm gonna ruin I'm gonna attempt to ruin Gaius for you. He looks like a gray Grinch from like Dr. Seuss. Like an armored Grinch is basically my name for him. So armored Grinch. You like that, Logan? Yeah.
I don't. Are you gonna rename all the colossi like this?
Yes, duh. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, I like to have my little hobbies on the side. But no. The thing is though, and no, this is again segueing into something serious though, because you could like, especially going into humanoid shapes. It's very easy to pull off a cool looking quadruped beast, and as you said, Logan, they do dip into yeah, like not homogeny, but they do at some point. There's a pattern to the design, and Gaius like there would have been the design potential to make him come across as goofy looking because he's got these like arms and everything. But
He
he,
looks a
as you
little
said,
goofy looking.
he is, yeah, but it's like goofy in that sort of frightening way, and it's really super. I think it's probably aesthetically one of my favorites, definitely up there. So yeah. So any other riffs on the fight, Nick, for yourself?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if do we talk about the ending separately?
Yeah, I suppose.
No, yeah,
Yeah, there's the fight
I
and
think
the
you
end.
can
I
go
sort of
ahead.
dipped into both.
Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Go.
okay. I think we had a disagreement there, but
Oh, sorry about that, Logan. Did you want to go fight then ending? Oh,
no.
I screwed up. I apologize.
Nick, I think we'll just let you say whatever.
Oh yeah, I
Yep,
mean,
go
I
for
was
it,
just
Nick.
gonna say too. It's there is sort of I don't know, a fun moment in trying to after he falls of trying to escape the usual like black tentacles, and this time actually jump off the edge, and
Yeah.
try to like make it back down to the water. Like it feels like there is more of a means of escape because you sort of you can cover a lot of distance by falling, and I feel like I have gotten to the edge and jumped and maybe been caught in the air. I don't think I've made it down to the water, but I could be just imagining that. I don't know how far I've actually made
Oh
it,
wow.
but
That's interesting. I never
it
even
fe-
tried that.
yeah, it feels like you
Yeah.
can like there's a meaningful path to like running away. Of course you can't, but there's that that futile interactivity that we've talked about I think before. But
Mm,
that's an interesting concept that is in play there as much as anywhere, that you think you can get away, but you still never can.
mm. Wow. Yeah, can't escape the guilt.
Yeah.
Any riffs on that one there, Logan?
No, I mean, I think stabbing and killing Gaius is interesting compared to the others because he got such a tiny head. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like it definitely you might affect you more that way because it's like you're really like stabbing this like I don't know, it's more humanoid and even the head is more humanoid just because it's small.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, in that respect, I always tend to feel a little weirder stabbing him because it's like it just yeah, that's just why.
Just the like I don't know if you guys have done any like looking into or maybe even seen a no play NOH. It's the Japanese kind of performance art, and they have these masks that are mono expression. There's no like articulation on
Mm,
the mask, but they're actually sculpted in a way that depending on the lighting and the angle, I'll actually send you guys a photo of this. It's incredible. Like there's just viewed from two different angles, this thing can look either like begging for mercy or super aggressive or very frightened, and just the ambiguity of the completely round eyes at different angles. Obviously, when viewed from below, there is that intimidation factor, and this is something in like filmmaking school they say everything from filled from below is to make the subject of that
mm,
shot look very oppressive and looming. But when you're above and it's looking down when it's looking up at you from above, it looks like pitiful, and frightened, and And I definitely got those vibes from, especially when you realize, oh, it looks so far away, so colossal, and then when you're up there, like its head is like, as you said, smaller, and it has that, yeah, as you said, Logan, more humanoid sort of, yeah, the empathy just kicking in for sure. Too easy. Okay, well, I think is that all of the questions, Logan?
Yeah, that's all.
Amazing, fantastic. Well, we're sitting on just coming up to the hour and 30. Let's have a look at let's jump into some of the, if that's okay with you. And we have a few questions for you, Nick, from
Sure.
Reddit /Shadow of the Colossus. So, hey, do you want to take a few of these, Logan, so we can continue our back and forth of
I
tag
don't
teaming?
have the link. I think you do the questions, then I'm just going to
Sure.
talk about
Okay.
why Gaius is so massively popular. I'll just get into that after.
You must, you must. Okay, so we have a really awesomely user named Ueda Shadow asks, I would like to ask Nick and Albert the same question. What would you want more, a prequel or a sequel of Shadow of the Colossus? I know Eco is considered a sequel of Shadow of the Colossus, but I mean the direct sequence of events in the Forbidden Lands. What's happened to Mono and Wanda, or what happened before the arrival of Wanda and Mono to the Forbidden Lands? And if Nick at some point considered writing the script for a possible adaptation of Shadow of the Colossus to the big screen. And he's given his name, so Michael Nadei or Nadais. So I'll hand that to you, Nick.
Sure. I mean, I think as far as the prequel sequel question, I think you could argue that Last Guardian is a prequel, and
Yeah.
Eco I think is obviously, not obviously, but is likely comes afterward at some point. So I think there is sort of an established chronology there. As far as what I would want, I mean, I wasn't even sure if I wanted the recent remake or not, and I still have slightly mixed feelings about it, but. I don't think I'd really. I mean, I think I'd want a different story, maybe something closer to Last Guardian, maybe that has, some more ties into what could eventually, like, maybe it's the banishment of Dorman or something, and maybe what that meant before he went to the lands. I don't think I'd really want to see anything else in that space, or necessarily with those
Mm.
characters even. But I think as far as planting a few more seeds, or it's like I don't want to unveil the mystery, but I'm fine having a few more theoretical things to tie into this world to think about. Like, I think the connection between Eco and Shadow is the perfect level of that sort of thing for me, of like a presumed connection that seems overt but might not mean anything at all, but it's nice to not ever have that stated canonically or not.
Mm.
I don't know, what do you think about Albert? Like, what would you want more of this game in a sense?
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. Hypothetically, say, and though it likely won't be this exact entity, but say if Fumito's properties at one point had like a 2012 era takeover that like Disney had with Star Wars, where now we're exploring everything. We're about to have like
Oh God.
a prequel of like Han Solo, and everything's going to be demystified to an extent. I just think if that were to happen, and I was like, okay, well, this has happened, and a lot of people had to come to peace with like, yeah, everything's going to be mined now. We're going to get everything, every kind of iteration. And so if that did happen, I would all that I would like plead to the sort of extended universe deities is that things were basically given like just the most beautiful, dignity filled and respect filled treatment. And so what I would like to see is if you did say, for example, explore, as we'd been touching on earlier about the earlier civilizations, and if we did end up diving into some of that, which again, like Nick, even as I dive into this, I've got this sort of this niggling kind of just truth right right on my shoulder, being like, this will never happen. What are you talking about, man? This is like freaking Smithsonian preserved, like nothing, like no one's gonna, hopefully, let's just say, like, you don't want to tempt fate, but hopefully never touch this. But to wrap that part of the question up is if it were either for a sequel or prequel to Eco or Shadow of the Colossus or Last Guardian, I just hope that it is done with respect. So I don't have any, so for you, not Michael, I don't have any specific plot things that I would like to see followed through, even though part of me does have like a little, my ear perks up a little bit with the intrigue that could be sort of mined with the ancient civilizations with that did build these structures. So that's interesting to me, if they had a
Right.
way of still maintaining that interest. But yeah, so yeah, but it's just sort of an expression of that. And then the next thing, Nick, was your screenplay for Shadow of the Colossus.
I mean, there has been talk about Shadow of the Colossus becoming a movie for pretty much since
Yeah.
its release. I think on and off. It's
Mm,
I mean, it still seems crazy to me. Obviously, there's a lot of very iconic imagery that could be cool, but when you take interaction out of it, like everything that makes it what it is lost, really. So I don't think it works at all in the same way as a film. Of course, I would still be excited and interested to see it. I don't think I'd have interest in writing it because I think like we sort of talked about with the last part, it's like demystifying things isn't interesting to me. And even if you made a wordless film without the interaction, that isn't interesting to me either. So it's the same reason really why I haven't read the like the Eco book. And maybe I should. And I've been told it's interesting, but it's still like a fan book. It's not official lore or anything. So
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I appreciate them thinking that's something that I could do, but it's just
Only
not.
you could do it, Nick.
I know, yeah.
You are the chosen one.
I don't think I'd want to be party to making it a film because it just seems like I don't know. It feels like a weird disconnect to me.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate thing. Really, is to say that the thing really just is complete unto itself, and I think they say always with the adaptation, we want to be so respectful, we want to reimagine it, and so, maybe the highest form of respect is restraint.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, and there was there was like a tweet or something by the Guardian saying like, why are all video game films bad? Because of course that's been the refrain, really since they became a mainstream thing. And to me, it's like, well, games are interactive, and that's it. That's like the only answer. Like you can build, you can build a new story in the world of a game, but that's not what makes the best game special.
I have a bit of tangentially related trivia to this exact subject. I recently watched, out of all things, because you were saying, yeah, the refrain is that video game films are horrible. But I will say, look, and maybe this may be to a chorus of cackles of laughter if you haven't seen it yet, but the sequel to Jumanji, the Welcome to the Jungle. Have you guys seen that by any chance?
No, I heard it's a lot of fun though.
Okay, let's just put it. I don't know if okay. I'll just tell you. So it's beautiful. It's insanely beautiful and earnest. It feels like a '90s movie out of time, like it was filmed out of time. And okay, I'll just say this now because I know because just for the connective tissue, subject matter. So at the very beginning of the game, at the very beginning of the film, there's a Fumito Ueda shout out. So
yes, there is. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It was a Sony production.
That's right, Sony production. So now, Nick, it's up to you. Would you like us tick Would you like us to reveal what the shout out is, or do you want to see it for yourself?
I mean, I do plan to watch the film at some point.
All right,
but I'm happy to hear it spoiled too if you think it would intrigue listeners to go watch the film.
Oh, I don't know, Logan. I'm gonna throw it to you. I can't make this choice. It's too
not
hard.
very impressive, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. So it
you noticed it too when you saw it, Logan?
Yeah.
I noticed it in the trailer. It was in the trailer.
Oh, really?
Oh
okay,
my God! Look at you with your Hawkeyes.
Well, I only noticed it because Gen Design actually tweeted about it.
Oh, how did I miss all of this? This is crazy.
They did. Yeah, they did.
All right. Well, you know what? I think we've primed him enough. Go for it. Like if you want to see it, like literally, it's but because my walls I've been continuously trying to just make sure my walls of adult jadedness don't immediately get built 7 feet thick and just letting no new experiences in. And I had seriously my walls all the way up because I love obviously the original Jumanji. But yeah, it is the best video game film so far to me ever made, if it counts. Yeah, definitely. It's so needless to say, it was written by Lawrence Kasdan's son, John Kasdan. And it's essentially the kind of thesis of it is they become like the characters step into whatever realm they need to, whether it's a new environment or a new persona. They step into these challenging situations specifically designed for each of them to grow as people. And you would never imagine this from like all the kind of crazy sort of super poppy kind of very rapidly edited together and like flashy kind of sounds kind of editing and with the trailers. So like just separate from that entirely and just say, hey, this is a 90s movie that happened to be filmed in 2016.
Cool. That's high praise.
Okay. Too easy. All right, we'll jump into the. Oh yeah, go ahead, Logan.
For the record, the shout out is there's a poster for The Last Guardian on a wall. I really don't think it's worth building.
Fine.
That's pretty interesting though.
Okay,
yeah,
but not only
cool. Actually,
Nick, it has 3 shots. There's like 3 held, like not
yeah,
like a mere glimpse. Like
because
the woman is like. So yeah, go ahead, Logan.
I know I'm gonna say I think he has 2 posters. I
He
think
has
one is on the
2.
back of his
There are
door,
2.
and then one is on his wall. I think.
Wow,
Yeah. So the main character. So there you go.
weird.
It's really really cool and beautiful. And again, there's a shared narrative aspect which obviously we won't spoil, but I'll
Sure.
maybe riff with Logan with that later. But do you secretly harbor resentment towards us for revealing that at all, Nick?
No. That's fine. Especially now knowing what it is, I think I might have been disappointed if it was some more like
Yeah.
clever esoteric reference. So
Okay. Oh yeah, no, that's all good. Yeah, too easy. Awesome. Well, we have another one. So from user official Kevsters, this is my question for him. Full stop. Ooh, moody. I love these like when people don't add certain aspects of like grammar and stuff, it just creates the mood. So what does he think of the remake? This is English. I love it. For PS4. Any changes to the overall game that he likes/dislikes? Also, my name is Kevin Robertson. Thank you. So
yeah. Well, thanks for the question, Kevin. I mean, I still have trouble actually like summarizing it because I do have a lot of thoughts and a lot of conflicted thoughts, and we chatted a bit on the show before, and now I've played a bunch more, and then I did the 10.5 hour slow jam, which is sort of us like just really getting into it for very long form and talking about our thoughts very openly as we have them. And I think having played through the whole game too, as much as I felt like the aesthetic was so different and the sort of quest for realism made the game feel so different and less dreamlike and just a different experience, I think by the end of playing through it, it still felt like Shadow to me, and it started to become more familiar and just felt normal by the end of the game. So it's easy to, I guess it's easy to forget that I don't know, the game is more than the sum of its parts, and even if some of those parts are changed, it still amount to something that is pretty unique and special. And I still just I'm glad it exists, and even if it exists in a weird way, I'm glad other people are going to get to play it for the first time. So that, if nothing else, I'm really happy about. And I sort of came more, I came to peace with the game itself, with the remake itself. It's still weird to me in a lot of ways, and again, does feel fundamentally different. It doesn't feel worse though. It just feels
What you said with
like a different game.
photo mode was interesting.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that a bit when we were talking about being up on Gaius's head, because that was actually the first time in the game when I had used photo mode, because I was like, oh, this is a really cool iconic moment that I always remember, being able to sort of see the Forbidden Lands and having positioned myself to see them in the best way. And then with photo mode, you can just pause it and swivel the camera around and see them, and you can turn the lighting to night, and you can shift focus and everything. But as soon as I started doing that, it felt sort of I was like bastardizing what it was trying to be and that moment it was trying to create for me. And I felt like as soon as I could move the camera, and it sort of changed the scale of how Gaius felt and made him feel smaller, which was like, I feel like wasn't the intent. So that was my first encounter with the photo mode, and made me feel like maybe this is antithetical to the spirit of the game and the sort of authorial framing of all these fights. So yeah, again, obviously I feel conflicted about a lot of these things, but I'm glad it exists.
I'm glad it exists too. I want to throw this to you as well, Logan, because I'm glad you raised it as well. Because we haven't really gone into it much, but I am as like someone who is very like just sort of visually minded. Like I'm not to say superficial or anything. I take my cues very much just like this sort of the visual medium. That's kind of my vibe. And when I find myself conflicted as well, like because I feel so swept up by that moment that I feel in the exact moment of feeling of just immersing myself completely. I also have this aspect that wants to definitely capture it. So yeah, photo mode is both. It's literally like 50-50 double-edged for me. So how about you, Logan?
No, I think when Nick, when Lord Nick, who is present somewhere in the ether at this point.
In the ether.
Yeah.
But I would say that as well. But I like when I'm talking to Nick, I say Logan. I don't say you.
That is true.
Yeah,
I just feel like
dude.
I've been doing it like a lot.
It's fine.
No,
it's fine.
It's fine. If you said you, then it would be like, well, you're talking about me or Albert, so it works.
It's fine,
Well,
Logan. You must relax.
oh,
When
we're
you're
doing this. This is the
talking with
second
us,
episode in a row, I think,
you
for
know,
the
no, you
walking.
must. This is the second episode with a little
Like
bit of walking
Christopher
in it.
makes a
When
return.
Okay, please continue,
when
Logan.
Nick, we'll go with Nick. When Nick brought this up in the first episode we had him on, I was saying how I used photo mode when Valis dies.
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
I immediately felt bad. I was like, ooh, I interrupted that. Like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But
I
then I
can
Right,
just
right,
I
imagine
right.
kept
the whole orchestra just being like, "Excuse me," like
yeah.
because you just like burst into the thing. They're like they
Yeah.
stop playing their instruments and they're like, "Excuse me," they just go for
Yeah,
it. Like,
I kept using it during the death scenes too, and like I felt bad, but I was like, look, I gotta get pictures of these tentacles, all right? Like, come on.
it's amazing. It's
But
like the
yeah,
war
that
photographer
was
guilt, you know?
so I definitely do agree somewhat with that, where it kind of
Mm,
does distract from the experience. But I mean, it's certainly I think it kind of complements just riding around the Forbidden Lands. You could
yeah.
say it complements it. You could say maybe that should also be an unbroken sort of experience. But
Mm.
yeah, it's totally a point that it makes sense to bring up.
I like that they have the option, which I immediately flipped back up. I flipped that switch back up of like, oh, do you want to disable photo mode, which is you can just take away the option of pressing down on the D-pad. And I tried that for the first two Colossi, and then it just, yeah, yeah. But that's the thing, maybe something for people out there maybe wondering, oh, I'm on the fence of whether or not maybe decide to in advance of time because I really like this is one thing that I resonate with Nick's book and Logan and I have talked about this about that authorial experience. If you do want to have that sense that you are Wanda, you're experiencing this one to one, and even if you divide the thing up in chapters, it's like Bastion from again I keep referencing Neverending Story. It just somehow like enters the ether when I talk about it. Is that he revisits it, he takes breaks, like he has his like sandwich and everything, but when he's there and he's not distracting himself. So he takes these breaks, but they're never to have this voyeuristic sort of tone breaking kind of break, so maybe ahead of time, just be like, I'm going to have a no photo mode playthrough, just experience everything as it is, take everything in right there, and that's something rare. You don't have that like for example, real life experiences. You can't go to your friend's wedding twice. You have to either make the decision, I'm
No.
going to be present, or I'm going to either take very little photos or a few photos. But with games, where you can say that it's like, well, my first playthrough, nothing. I'm just going to experience it one to one, and then the next one through, yeah, I'll really indulge, and it really does reward multiple playthroughs as well. So
Mhm.
so yeah. Okay, so our last question. This is one of my favorites because it's really great. It's very simple. Where is the book? And I said, boss fight books. Done. That's the last question.
Thank you. Easy. Done.
Easy and done. Okie dokie. So in terms of our wrap up, so our supporter shout outs, at this stage we have few enough that I can basically rattle them off. So we have Adam, we have Yusuf, who co-hosts with me on God of War podcast. Thank you so much on the $15 a month tier. And thank you all as well to Tom and to Brendan, all of you just chipping in a couple of dollars every month. It's so amazing, and I keep this pretty short. And I'm trying to keep it short and brief, even though I do get into my like I get choked up thinking about these amazing people around the world helping me. Ugh. If you guys remember Mike Myers in like SNL, how he gets all like I'm getting verklempt, So
Not that sketch.
okay, not that sketch. Nick, please help me. You
No, no,
remember
I,
SNL,
I
right?
do. I remember it well, and you do a
Yeah.
fine Mike Myers.
Thank you. um, what is it? The Roman design was based on the Roman basilica. Discuss. I just fucking love
It's
that.
funny you bring up SNL and you were doing Christopher Walken because actually on the back cover of my Shadow of the Colossus book, there is a reference to a Christopher Walken SNL skit, which I'll leave
Oh
to
my
you to
god.
figure out.
That's again connectivity of the ether. It's
Yep.
amazing. I love it. It's good. All right, please. All right. So yeah. So thank you so much to everyone helping us. And at this moment, where as I mentioned a couple of teasers earlier with the Dune podcast, we're looking at just having that same thing, which we opened up these doors to things like the Shadow Dome. We want to expand out because interactive artistry, it has this. We're finding that we have this sort of wider realm that we can explore because you don't want to that's the whole point of it is that you don't want to you don't want to restrict this medium to obviously the core, the beating heart of this channel will always be interactive artistry, as in like games. This medium is always going to be at the core. But what we also want to introduce is the idea that we are entering a stage, at least what I'm hoping we see even more of, is that the lines blur away. Even Kojima's spoken about this, is like in a couple of years, like literally the lines will blur away from between games and films, and I think James Cameron has said this too. So us expanding out, and we've had a couple of feedback being like, why are you guys branching out? It's like, well, we just want to be ahead of the curve and just saying this is, we really do feel like they are going to be inherently connected, and yeah, to not stigmatize away and be like we're just games only. So Dune, but then speaking at the same turn as I say that, we did also mention the Order podcast, which November. So I'm still in the process of putting together guests, getting in touch with folks for there. But that'll be the tone of that show, and it's nice to see to hear you earlier, Nick, raising your hand for that, because that would be really wonderful to bring your insights to that show. And that'll essentially be just again, Skype based. So if we have any people connected to Radio Dawn who so that their ears pricked up, we want to just basically speak with everyone who just contributed to the creation of that game. And it's one of, if you look back in the sort of the dark web of when interactive artistry first got started, I consider the Order 1886 to be like one of the core pillars of when I myself like awoke to just like where this medium can go. Like the idea that they were studying the organic, like the anatomy of the human eye to be able to authentically portray a cinematic lens. And like the game was featured in Time magazine for like advances of the, and now it's just disappeared. Like this game, it's almost like a pariah. Like no one talks about it, which is just criminal. They scanned like museum quality, like no era, like actually like clothing from the era of 1886 to just like get that exact kind of like the like the feeling. Like they did photogrammetry on like the lint to make these things like as authentic as they were. They went so in, and they hired an Emmy nominated screenwriter, Kurt Ellis, who did the Paul Giamatti, which he won Emmys for, the what's it called? It was like a historical drama. So so I'm really stoked about that. So there's an extra extended tease there, and so for what we have ahead. So if you wanted to jump in and help us, where that's kind of the direction we want to head, is just keep growing. So. But I want to, if it's all right, on behalf of just like, I mean, all of our listeners, we certainly appreciate it. But just on behalf of Interactive Artistry, everyone here, Nick, it's wonderful to have you on the show again.
Oh, hold on for a sec, because
oh yeah,
I know I've been teasing this throughout the episode.
Oh, here we go. Oh
I wanted,
Logan, just jump straight in. You take the floor. You take the Gaius platform. It's all yours.
I want to say I've had for a long time, and if you follow me on Tumblr, you know this, like a little bit of a vendetta against Gaius because of how massively popular he is compared to all the other colossi. Now, we know why. We know why he's popular. Nick, you did say it in your book. Because he's humanoid. The wiki says it because it's, maybe you could consider it the first real fight. It's on a big platform. You get up on top of his head, blah, blah, blah. Still, it really annoys me how he's on the cover of the remake now. Like, Valis is just, he's in the trash. You throw Valis in the trash, all right? He doesn't matter anymore.
Oh no! Don't say that.
That's not what I'm saying. That's what that's a Blue Point.
Okay.
Like it's Valis is the first one. He's representative of what most of the colossi look like. I think that he should be the mascot, and it generally has just kind of annoyed me how much fan art Gaius gets compared to the others. My favorite is Pelagia. He gets like no fan art, or it. Pelagia is more of an it, I think.
Yeah.
But and yet Gaius, like, so many posters. When you like you have articles, like, when you would get retrospective articles about Shadow of the Colossus, Gaius would be at the top. You have these pictures. I've actually weirdly seen multiple instances of fan art where Gaius is portrayed as being like 18 mountains tall instead of 97 feet tall. Bizarrely, I haven't seen much fan art for any of the other colossi like that, but I've seen multiple pieces of fan art where you have like Wander Tiny in the foreground and Gaius just like standing up behind a mountain, like reaching up into space.
Well, Logan, what did I say? The human form, people like literally
Yeah,
artistry.
I
It's an
suppose
unconscious
so.
thing. We're obsessed with it, you know?
And
Hmm.
yeah, yes, it is a little bit funny. But I do want to make an appeal to all you fan artists out there. Maybe just give Plagius some art, give Hydra some art. Um, give Dirge. How about Dirge?
Oh yeah,
Um,
true.
he's kind of cool. We'll get to him eventually.
You sound
Yeah.
like you sound like a dad trying to convince his son like this action figure's cool too. This the cheaper one, you know, the one isn't this like from Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Everyone wants like yeah, go ahead, Nick.
as much as I love Gaius, I agree with you. And makes me think about the remake. If that was if that really was speaking to, trying to speak to fans as well, and knowing that Gaius is sort of the most popular visually, and saying, "Hey, remember Shadow of the Colossus?" Which basically is saying like,
Mm.
"Hey, do you remember this Colossus, the one that we've seen the most, public love and art for and everything?" So
Mm,
maybe that was to try and capture those people. And I guess one other more devil's advocate thought is that I think the cover of the original game with Valis, like, it's nice, but it's still not, anywhere as nice as the cover of this game should have been at the
yeah.
time. So I think
Mm.
that even what was the original wasn't especially great. But I would totally agree with the sentiment of like, let's see more fan art and homages to the other Colossi. Or I'd love to see people just also imagining what new Colossi could look like. I mean, we've seen, there's
Yeah.
plenty of pictures online and in the Japanese strategy guide, which I have here, of a bunch of the colossi that were cut and what they would have looked like. But it would be cool to see people just take sort of some of these aesthetic themes and come up with new ones. Like, what does a new 16 colossi look like if you're designing them from scratch? Like, I'd love to look into that and have people imagine
Ooh.
what those fights could sound like. Like, that would be really cool to read.
Well, Nick, you've incepted for us a potential a competition which we may hold at some point of just like, hey, we want it's going to be like a super ambitious fan art thing of like, no, 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 not just one. I want you to design all like 16 brand new colossi. Like you are in 2005, Fumito Ueda just said, "Lo, go," you know. So we're not announcing it now, but I think that's really nifty. I really dig that idea.
Cool.
Too
Logan,
easy.
was there anything else on that point, or was
No,
it more
I
more a
think I
general
just
appeal?
yeah, it was. I just the moment I heard we were gonna go into Gaius or we were gonna go into the Colossi individual, I was like, oh, I just need to talk about
I
like
know.
You
I'm
were like,
so
you were like,
glad.
so
screw that guy.
popular. Yeah.
In fact, when you jump in, I might, if I'm like not lazy with the edit, I will like do some kind of music sting of like wait, vroom, you
Oh,
know,
good.
like
Yeah.
Logan won't let this episode slide.
Soap
And but
opera. Yeah.
I initially felt bad, like I still do, and I definitely like Logan. I didn't mean to kind of like wrap things up without you having
Oh
that.
no.
Like I'm yeah, awesome, cool. Just had to check.
And one
But
other
no,
thing
I
too, I'm just seeing now. Sorry, as a quick aside, on the I had pulled
yep.
up the Gaius wiki page that you guys had mentioned, and I don't know if you guys have talked about the sort of Dorman's prefaces for each fight, the little couple lines he says about each. But Gaius's are
Mm.
a little interesting. He says, "Thy next foe is a giant canopy soars to the heavens," and that's interesting because I never actually looked into it, but canopy is obviously a very specific word, and I'm sure some
Yeah.
stuff got lost in translation or changed in translation. I'm curious what that word was in Japanese and what the intent is with that. And then the latter half of it being the anger of the sleeping giant shatters the earth, which is also like a little tip in itself of having, I think of having to have him like hit the
Mm.
sword to shatter the wristband and stuff. So it's interesting, sort of what sort of mood slash information is embedded in some of those little Dorman shout outs in the beginning.
That's true. That's true. And you've given me another idea of like whenever we do have you, Nick, we would love for you to read out. Like this is just, I think that's cool. Like the idea of before we discuss, because we're only like 6 episodes into this. We're still figuring out rhythms. We've made obviously strides with them sorting out like the structure, and now we have those questions, which are really great. Shout out to that Reddit user. But yeah, is that cool, Nick? Whenever you're on, you just like we'll just riff about maybe at the very start because it is the very first thing we get about that Colossus. We obviously see the cutaway to the statue, and we don't really
Right.
talk about the statues, because we can talk about the Colossus itself. But I like the idea of like when we kick off talking about the next Colossi, whenever we do have you back, we'll just start with the quote and maybe break that down a bit. So
Yeah, that sounds good.
um,
That's also how I book chapters, or the
book
chapters in my book are
absolutely.
named
Mhm.
after those as well. So yeah.
Mm, yeah, amazing. Yeah. Okay, so did you want to do a quick? I'll just say it right here. So the whole idea, I mean, come on, like the canopy soaring to the heaven, it's essentially tantamount to confirmation that yeah, it's a spaceship. What do you reckon, Logan? Is it?
Is it confirmation?
Is it
I
indeed?
mean,
Who knows?
is the canopy the big surface that you're fighting him on, or is Gaius the canopy?
Cool. A giant canopy soars
I assume it's
towards.
just trying to describe something tall in a weird esoteric lost in translation sort of way, but
Mm.
hard to tell, obviously.
I gotta say, Anika, I really appreciate how you've named like your chapters so like evocatively, like taking from these quotes, like one of my favorite bands, Mastodon. They essentially they love Joseph Campbell, and Joseph Campbell has these ways of titling his sections and his names and his terms for things that is just like this beautiful, timeless kind of quality to them. And they have a song on like Blood Mountain, which is like the hero of the gods, the crossing of the threshold, the belly of the whale, refusal of return, which are all either titles of Joseph Campbell works, or they're very much like in his sort of opening statements in his chapters. So your book definitely has a Campbellian kind of vibe to it, which I really dig, and these
Cool,
quotes as
thanks.
well. I
I'll
dig.
I'll take it. And my now knowing that you like Mastodon, not quite the same, but my recommendation to you will be to check out an instrumental metal band from Chicago called Pelican that I listen
I
to
fucking love
a
Pelican.
lot.
Are you
Oh, do you
kidding
really?
me?
Okay,
Oh
great.
yeah, man, I'm all up in them. And ISIS as well. You know, back when that wasn't such a dirty word. Instrumental band
Didn't
called
you guys
ISIS. Yeah.
also kind of, I think if I recall, you had a little music connection in the other episode as well, where you were
The
like, oh, we
Sword,
both listen
yeah,
to this
Oh,
other
that's
band.
right. Yeah, who I
yeah.
think are about to play
Santiago,
here
the
now.
drummer.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Nick, we have to throw this out because it's just crazy. So we had Justin Dressler on, who is out of like completely separated from just independent project. He was creating this adaptation of the sword. If you see the used future, like they actually named their title track. Their title track used future is it looks like his game, which is just spooky. Like I interviewed this guy like 3 months ago, and the official music video essentially resembles exactly what he was making. So I'm like, that's nuts. So,
Oh wow.
so yeah, like the connection, the weird connections to interactive artistry between the sword. We're gonna have them on the show at one point, and it'd be great to have it'd be great to have you on that episode, Nick.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Too easy.
I was gonna so just wanted to think the small thing to mention. You were talking about the title chapters of my book. And I'll give you
Yes.
one other Easter egg from the book that I haven't really seen anyone call out to me that I haven't told to anyone.
Ooh.
But the I don't know what you'd call them, almost like paragraph breaks. Whenever it's sort of a bigger topic shift, there's a series of dots, and it
Mm.
starts with 16 dots at the beginning of the book, and as it goes forward, of course, it drops
Oh,
down.
you
It
hot
drops
dog.
down dot by dot the whole way.
You and your
Little subtle
well,
formatting thing.
thank you. No, no, that's
Thank you.
you don't know. You have no idea how like satisfying that is, Nick. Oh my god. Okay, because obviously every time you defeat a colossi, there's the doves, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in the leather-bound third or fourth edition in 2021, which I'm going to insist I'll just be like, I'll somehow crowdfund that whatever I need to because I want this one like editions to be carried forward. I want for those little dots to look like maybe, I don't know, unless this gives it away, maybe those dots become doves, maybe, who knows?
Excellent. Yeah.
Um,
I actually
I
had
dig
originally
that
I
so
had like
much.
even more ambitious like ideas for that, but then my editors were like, "Yeah, that's a little much." And they were right. It was a little too much, but I'm glad we kept something in there.
That's amazing. Oh, that's so cool. All right, I dig that. Yeah, little hidden Easter, like little literal. Oh, Easter eggs, Easter, happy Easter. Okay, sorry.
Oh yeah,
That's what. Yeah, there you go. Dig it. It is the season for Easter eggs, isn't it? Okay.
yeah. You can go on your own little Easter egg hunt or a little gold coin hunt or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed, indeed. Too easy. Well, if we didn't have any other riffs on Gaius, I think we can close, like, get that nice crinkly sound of just like the tomes, the page closing on like the whole episode. If I can find some texture of that, come on, like, hey, Logan, what is your go-to sound for like a book like closing and like a freaking fantasy film or something? Is it like Willow or something? Like, that huge sound of like a book closing?
You're asking me to remember a sound effect from a
Yes, yes.
specific
I'm
movie.
into the minutia, man. Do you know me? I love minutia.
I cannot say that I can remember one off the
Right.
top of my head.
Okay. Well, I think my one is maybe it's off the top of my head is like in the first Harry Potter movie, the little goblins have their just massive like ledger books, and they slam those things shut. So if I am not lazy with the
Nice.
edit, I'll edit something like that in. But yes, listeners, we are drawing a close on this extended chat on Gaius, the third colossus. So the next colossus, Logan, what will it be?
Phaedra.
Phaedra, who is, drumroll, is my favorite personally.
Oh,
I
nice.
love Phaedra.
Ooh.
Just
That's
so
good
feminine.
because I was like, I don't know if we're gonna have that much to talk about with Phaedra, but I guess you will.
Oh,
So that's nice.
big time, yeah. And I'll throughout the entire song I'll have that song with the Kate Moss dancing in it. Phaedra is my name, just playing all the way through. Nick, you remember that one? It's a bit of a deep cut, but do
No,
you
I
remember
don't.
that song?
You're yeah.
You're alone.
I know. I skim the surface with you a lot of the times, but then when you go deep, you
It's
go
okay.
alone.
I told you. You go alone, and I dig that, man. We're each gonna have a moment like that for each of our kind of diverticulars that we take. But it is by a band called Some Velvet Morning, and it's by Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra. So Phaedra is my name. All right. Well, okay. Why not? Actually, no. I will keep this little tease of the Phaedra trivia. I will keep that for the next episode. But Nick, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Yeah, thanks guys. That was great. And happy to join you again before the end. I'm excited to. I mean, I can't promise I'll listen to every episode because, like I said,
That's
I
fine.
have a weird thing about not listening to gaming podcasts.
It's
More just that
important. You need the break.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's part of it. But I'm excited to like talk to you guys in a few episodes, just as you've talked through more of this stuff and what sort of what sort of issues you've gotten hung up on in a good way that you've really dug into, and what the game becomes for you through these discussions over the course of it. So I'm excited to hear, and I appreciate you having me back.
No problem at all. Logan, do you have any other riffs either for like the listeners or Nick, or what? Go for it, man.
No, no. Of course, many thanks to Nick for being on. And I don't know what colossus would you be most interested in coming back for if you had to pick?
Oh, I like the. I'm forgetting the name right now. The little lion. Where the flame burns.
Yeah. Yes. Oh gosh.
Celosia, I think.
Yeah,
Celosia. That's right.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Well, there's a potential tease of which one you might be back for, but again, it's obviously dependent on schedules and all that, man. And I reiterate it for the listeners how Nick is essentially the Gandalf of this story. He'll just appear as he may, and he sort of launched us off into the quest, and I kind of dig that. It's really nifty. So, what's ahead for you, Nick, in terms of upcoming things you're getting up to?
Not too many projects I can talk about yet, but coming out of GDC was definitely a fruitful one of like cool things I'll be kicking off soon. Some work I'll be diving into, doing a little bit of writing on a couple different games, in a smaller way, and hopefully some other stuff in a bigger way. Sort of working on a couple games of my own as the first, very few first baby steps towards that. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, not too much else in the meantime. Hopefully, I'll have more things to promote more overtly in the future. But otherwise, N Sutner on Twitter is where most of my thoughts go.
Fantastic, awesome. And where can folks reach you, Logan?
Well, you can find me on at InimitableUman on Twitter. And then, of course, you can find me at landsoflightanddark.tumblr.com for all my Team Eco stuff.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And I'll just dive into our little kind of spiel here. So we humbly hope you enjoyed joining us for this next kind of chapter of our ongoing journey across Forbidden Lands, and joining in this big, wide analytical discussion that we're having, and across the Uedaverse, which I'm slowly thinking should that have been the name for the podcast, the Uedaverse podcast. But needless to say, you can reach us at fumitouedapodcast@gmail.com. We really honestly are, listeners, just Fumito Ueda podcast everywhere. So on Tumblr, on Instagram, so you can just find us easily. So I won't go through all. And yeah, Fumito Ueda pod on Twitter if you wanted to get in touch, and we'll do a similar Q&A post as we did for this one next time Nick is on, and should have a nice fun time with either Celosia or whichever one you join us back on. Nick?
Cool. Sounds good.
Incredible. Too easy. Fantastic. Well, take it easy, listeners, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Am I speaking with Nick Sutner?
Hello, how's it going?
How are you, buddy?
Hey.
And we have a
Hi, guys.
Logan. Amazing. Good to speak with you both, gentlemen.
That's
Yeah.
You as well. How are you feeling early in the morning?
Oh, stop it, Nick. You know, I'm always good for these. Look, you can hear it in my voice. I'm
Oh,
raring
I
to
know you
go.
are.
Man, I don't know how, but yeah.
I know.
It's all good. I was awake from like 1. Like whenever I know that I have like a show, although like Logan, sometimes I have like, the body has just shut down and stuff. But like because of the regular scheduling and the regular recording time, it's I've been able to store up a reservoir of ability to wake up at proper times. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Cool.
But it is getting very
I
cold
appreciate
here.
you guys being flexible.
Oh no, it's no problem at all, Nick. Anytime. It's getting cold here in Canberra, so that little prep time, you may have thought it was me like getting podcast gear together. Nah, it's just me getting like blankets and stuff. Because it's
I'm trying to test my recording because I don't want to make sure that what happened last week with it doesn't happen this week.
Okay. Okay, cool.
But I'm having some trouble with that. I don't know what the problem is.
It's you. It's always been you. No, dude, never mind. It's
I mean,
like
it is.
I wanna say something. I wanna say something, Logan. So I always record like a couple of different tracks. So I have the baseline mono track with all of us on it, and then so like it'll be fine. If you can get your
Okay, I hope
QuickTime,
so.
if you can get your QuickTime thing happening, that should be fine. Are you cool to record your audio, Nick?
Yeah, I can just do it in QuickTime as well.
Sweet.
There is. I
I
was going to say.
use-
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I use Audacity just because I don't, I don't. Is QuickTime even available for Windows or I don't even know.
Probably, but I bet it's shitty.
Nice.
I usually use Audacity as well, but I never actually like look to do recording in QuickTime, and it looks pretty straightforward. So I'll just try it there. But I was going to say too is I forget. I'm trying to remember the name of it. There's a podcast recording site that I used with some folks a couple months ago, where you just send a link and it locally records everyone and then like auto uploads to the same place for the podcaster to get. That seemed really helpful.
What the hell? This sounds like, what is this dream you speak of?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Amazing.
Let's see. I think it is Zencaster.
Zencaster.
You go to Zencaster without an E, so Zencastr.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for letting us know about that.
Sure, yeah. It seems super easy because, you just send a link out, then everyone clicks record, and then at the end, it just auto uploads the locally recorded track to the, to the person hosting.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. I might look into that.
You might have to, actually, it looks like you do have to pay for it, but I assume it's reasonable.
Okay.
Actually, it says that hobbyists is free, and then it says professional is $20 a month. But it looks like the hobbyist stuff is just limited to like how many hours you can do.
I might have to figure out where their sort of headquarters are and like volunteer to just do like garden work for them for a month and just be like, hey, is this cool? Can we make this work? And who knows? We'll see. Okie dokie. So I've got my show notes all ready. It's very much like Nick, same thing as last time. We're just gonna riff and sort of flow pretty like loose structure. You know how it was from last time.
Sure, yeah, works for me. I shamefully haven't listened to episodes beyond that since I, for some reason, don't really listen to any gaming podcasts.
Dude, you're busy and stuff, all right? Like, come on.
It's I don't know. Weirdly, it's not even that. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. It's just for some reason, like my whole life is gaming except for podcasts, and I listen to a lot of other stuff.
What's a few of them that you listen to?
A lot of them that are on the Gimlet podcasting network. There's one called Every Little Thing.
Nice.
There's Startup Podcast. A whole bunch. It's more the sort of like the very highly produced, like segmented, like This American Lifestyle podcast.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one. Greg,
so
I think you spoke with Greg Miller the other month actually. Like he's all about that. That's the first one out of his mouth when he says like it's the podcast that he listened to, and that's that barometer of like audio quality is it's what we're sort of slowly making our way towards, hopefully down the line. So that's what we want to do.
Sure. And it is, I think making an episode like that takes, like weeks of editing and construction.
Yeah.
It's a different sort of format. But anyway, sorry, I don't want to hold this up.
No, man, I'm digging it. So, Logan, are you all good to go?
I hope so. I think, I'm going to take a look at the audio levels when we start.
Okay. It's coming through pretty clear on the Skype recording, but...
no, I don't think it has anything to do with that. It's some weird issue. Just with maybe the microphone that's attached to my earbuds or something. Okay. I don't really know. It might have something to do with me moving around, which is like, I don't, I'm not like standing up and walking around, but even I guess even minute movements might have something to do with it. So I don't know, but I'm gonna look at it.
I believe in the power of the podcast. You know how you have to believe in the heart and the heart of the cards in Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, we need to just believe, and we can get through this. All right, man, it's all good, dude. If you can't record, then like just like whatever program you used last time, just like if that's like voice memos, whatever. But like we'll just crack on if that's cool with you, Logan.
I didn't use I for some reason I ditched voice memos for Audacity, but I kind of forget why. I'm wondering if maybe I should try again with it now. Maybe could I use both at once? Would that even be possible?
Maybe.
I wonder if that would be too taxing on my computer here.
No, that's all good, dude. But just in the interest of time, I reckon we'll get started. Hey, how do you reckon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just start recording my Nick. If you want to start recording your audio now.
Yep. Cool.
And that is happening for me too. 001,
Okay,
002, 003.
Okay, I'm going now.
Fantastic! Look at this, the gang, the 3-member, freaking Power Ranger trio that don't wear like the Power Ranger outfits and everything.
Actually, sorry, I'm gonna restart my recording real quick just because I chose the I know
I
chose the maximum setting for quality, and it like after a few seconds was already like 5 megabytes, so it seemed like it was on track to be like tens of gigabytes, which would be a little awkward.
Oh no, that's legit. Like I was just kidding. And like, dude, you don't want that. No one wants that.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave it on the high setting instead. And see how that goes.
In that case, I will quit mine and start again.
Okay.
Amazing.
Can I keep going, or should I?
Oh yeah,
stop
stop yours and we'll start again because it's always easier with the edit if you just everyone starts at the same time. So quick time. Okay. Do. Thanks for bearing with us, Nick. You're a legend.
Ah, anytime.
Too easy.
Just tell me when.
Nick has got that sort of leathery skinned, just like sun bleached experience of like podcasting patience. You know, that's over the years, and so we appreciate it. So new audio recording.
So I just started recording.
Fantastic! Look at it. Logan is screaming ahead by a couple of seconds, and he's screaming around the track. Okay, guys, have a good show, and I'll just count us down. In 3, and 2, and 1. Okay, everyone, don't hang out. But where are you going? Hey, come back! Come back! Obviously, I'll have edited all of this perfectly. Nick, I'm struggling. Ask me why I'm struggling, Nick.
Why are you struggling?
I just got into On Cinema at the Cinema, and I need to.
Oh my gosh!
Because it obviously it's like a parody of podcasts, and whenever I find myself stumbling, like at all, I just feel like dipping straight into like Tim Heidecker kind of mannerisms. I was like, a shadow of Fumito, of the Gaius, colossus.
Yeah. Do you watch that, Nick, at all?
No, I don't.
All right.
It's so good. This is the first time I've heard that Albert watches it. I'm very surprised.
You need to, Nick,
impressed.
please do yourself a favor again after you've watched the second Jumanji. It's called On Cinema at the Cinema, and if you enjoy like Tim and Eric,
in moderation, maybe.
In doses, yeah.
Well, the thing is, On Cinema is not too similar to Tim and Eric. It's just that Tim is one of the main guys in it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, if you don't mind, send me a link. That sounds up my alley.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, because it is essentially like because you're a podcaster and so am I, and I've just had to just make sure, especially as I've just been, it'll obviously like enter more like muscle memory of just like it's all good. I'm recording. I'm in that mode. But there've been a couple occasions because his show is specifically designed to like parody podcasts that don't have like let's say like this American Life kind of levels of production, and I'm obviously trying to ameliorate that as we go along with getting better tech and everything, but it's just very easy to just be like, oh god, and you just like I almost like catch myself laughing. It's so good, so I'll send that to you.
Well, Albert, are you listening to the podcast first, or are you getting into the web show
everything,
also?
Dude, the Oscar specials are just
a lot of content.
Me, man. It is so much.
I haven't really seen the Oscar specials because they're so damn long.
I got the Oscar fever. How about you? So bad. All right. Too easy. Okie dokie. Well, you know what? I think that's it. Let's mosey on towards our days again. Like, do you have any other little extra post-show ditties for us, Logan?
Well, I did want to say, I guess it's so weird, like, kind of being half still recording and half not.
Yeah, I always throw these things somewhere in the episode.
Being more casual with it. but there's this theory that I really want to bring up, and I kind of knew we probably wouldn't really have time today. It just wouldn't work to go into it, and kind of an episode that would probably end up being quite long.
Yeah.
There's this theory that was I think posted on March 14th in a couple different places by this guy, and it's about the Dorman Nimrod connection, which is something that I think Nick, you actually mentioned in the Gaius chapter in your book. And, but I've never seen anyone go into it as much as I've seen this guy go into it in this theory, and there's actually like a lot there, like beyond Norman being beyond.
Oh, really?
Sorry, did I say Norman? Beyond Dorman being Nimrod backwards, there's like a lot of little parallels to the Nimrod story.
Oh, because it's about all the voices being scattered, or it's about the entities being scattered, right? That whole angle.
Yeah, well, it's that and more. There's a lot more than I even thought. He does go into, and I'm gonna get into this, I guess, whatever episode I bring this up. I am very anti Mono is the queen stuff.
Right.
And it's there is a point in this theory where the guy's like, take a look at Mono. now take a look at the queen, and like the implication is that you're supposed to go, wow, they look so much alike. But, like, to me, it's like, no, these people look totally different. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, dude.
But great theory. Mostly really great theory, and I'm gonna get into that at a future episode.
I dig it. Fantastic.
Cool.
Okay. Well, what time is it for everyone? What's for yourself, Nick?
3:20 in the afternoon.
Man, have a good lunch, or happy, like sitting on like happily having had lunch just now. Logan, yourself?
Podcast.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's 6:22 for me. I'm gonna see Ready Player One at 9:30 tonight.
Amazing.
Nice. Enjoy.
Okay, cool. Have you seen it, Nick?
No, I might see it tonight as well, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, cool. I might briefly consider and then subsequently not see it. All right. Well, I'm kidding. Although I did see. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say, as a side note, also I exported this audio and I'm uploading now to send to you. It exported as like an M4A out of QuickTime because there wasn't a lot of options. But if that ends up being an issue, just let me know and I'll see if I can convert it on my end.
You have the quietest typing I've ever. Do you have like a Surface or something? I just could not even tell. Usually, I have the eyes, the ears of some kind of high-tuned creature that's able to hear very well. What's it? Because eyes of a hawk. What the fuck? Like ears of a fox. There you go. How the hell did you do that? Like I usually
ears. What's the difference?
Exactly. Eyes, ears. What's the difference? They're all orifices. What? Okay. Well, thank you for that, Nick.
I don't know, just quiet background tasks. You know.
Amazing. Can you start a game? Maybe create a game called Quiet Background Tasks, and it's just a super meditative mobile game. Yeah.
Just the sound of typing.
Just like the people that have the sound of rain, like the rain channel, and it's all right. Well, yeah. Have an awesome rest of the week, guys, and we'll catch up next time. For yourself, Logan, next week. And whenever we get you back. Nick.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, guys.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.